gun testing, hospitals are insisting that when you present yourself there, you will be tested.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
It doesn't matter what has brought you there, you'll be tested. So suddenly, we say the numbers are rising. There's that argument, but there's the other argument. The numbers are not rising. What is happening is that we are simply determining what already was there.
Yeah.
Yes. We're not, it's not as though the suddenly sprung from somewhere. Now, this discussion is going to go on for some time because when these numbers keep rising at 200 a day, we are going to keep even more. We're going to keep saying, oh, the infection is increasing. Yes, that is just one side of the debate. The question you should ask is, how many of our people are actually likely to be COVID positive and have been asymptomatic?
Yep.
Because what you're saying is, we're not saying they're exhibiting any signs. No, we're simply saying they've tested positive.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something else, which we should also debate at some point. When we say test, we really need to understand what this test is. Are we screening or are we actually testing? And if we're testing, what are we testing for?
Testing is the PCR tests. When are you talking about the tests that the government announces?
Yes.
Those are the PCR
The
tests.
PCR, the complete test.
The complete tests.
It's not just the antibody that
So
we
it's
have
not
other countries
in fact, the
looking at.
antibody, the CAS was very categorical yesterday that antibody testing has not been approved in this country.
In this country, yeah.
Because there are some private organizations that have started doing antibody testing.
You know,
And I said, no, in this country, we are not doing antibody testing because we have got to come up with protocols
I
for
would
that.
need proof of that before I actually believe it.
That we are only doing PCR.
Yes.
Okay. Where is your doubt emanating from?
My doubt emanates from this simple fact that for PCR to work, first of all, you need just the basic wherewithal to ensure that you can conduct those tests in a timely manner.
Yep.
We noted sometime last week that there was a problem simply with that. You couldn't conduct the test that you wanted simply because they didn't have certain things that were required for those tests. Have I read anywhere that those things have now, that particular situation has been rectified? No, I haven't. So when someone tells me they're all PCR tests, look, you know, when doubts are removed is when the government tells you, Camry currently tests these numbers every single day. Okay?
Yeah.
Ampath and Eldoret test these numbers every single day. Moi Referral Hospital on its own, because Ampath is actually busy, tests these numbers every single day. CDC, Kisian, tests these numbers every single day. CDC Camry or Camry CDC tests these numbers. Then, once that data is given, and you also tell us the capacity of these institutions, then there's really nothing that I'm going to ask, and I'm not going to doubt it. But if there's stories of there not being sufficient wherewithal for the testings to be conducted, then I will pause and say, okay, when they've sorted that out, I will understand. When you don't tell us outrightly, given the capacity of some of these institutions, what they're actually doing on a daily basis, then I will have to I will have to question. That is really why I'm questioning.
Okay.
That's where it's coming from.
Okay.
And the doubts will stay.
All right. I think that basically what you're asking is for the detail of this
I'm
whole process.
asking for the verifiable details. You see, the ministry that we're dealing with, we start off from a perspective that this particular ministry is not the most trustworthy of ministries, just for starters.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just for starters. So now, if you want to be credible, we've believed you so far. But when you start saying certain things, then please reassure us by simply giving us facts that you should have at your fingertips and tell us this is what is happening, and this is how we are doing it, and this is, yes, and we have this stock, so the likelihood of this happening is, and if indeed the antibody testing, this is what, believe me, there are antibody tests in this country that are going on. Forget what you're being told they're not going on. No.
All right.
Okay. And then globally?
Okay, so globally we're at 8.5 million. This is what we see around the world. If we want to look at Brazil specifically today, at this point, Brazil with almost 1 million cases. This is what we are looking at now, with 983,359 cases. And really, if we just want to look at the timeline by which they got to this number, 6 weeks ago, we're looking at Brazil with just under 300,000 cases. In a month and a half, those cases have tripled, and with 47,869 deaths, Brazil is looking at about 28,000 cases every day. An average of 23,000 cases every day, and this has not leveled off just yet. So they're likely to cross that 1 million case mark by the time the weekend is over. The United States still recording high cases every day, 2,263,651 cases. The United States is carrying about a quarter of the world's cases with 120,688 deaths. We remember that over the weekend, last Friday, the US was at 109 cases. In a week, they have recorded 11,000 deaths in the US, and those numbers have been rising. If you just want to do comparative between last week and this week, the numbers continue to rise in Mexico.
11,000.
Yes, 11,000 deaths in 7 days. It's a big deal here. Mexico, in the last 7 hours, 5,662 cases have been recorded with 667 deaths. So again, we're still looking at high numbers of cases because of with high number of testing. However, the deaths are still over 10%. Of the cases found in the last 7 hours, 11% of those have resulted in death. So what's happening in Mexico is it's a bit crazy because of that percentage that we're seeing that are actually ending in death.
Remember, Mexico also had this open door policy.
They did.
And they favored greatly herd immunity. Brazil was in a certain league of its own. Because the president, their president, blows hot and then blows cold and then blows tepid. So
not really sure what direction
yes,
they're going
but
in.
if you look at the numbers of infections that they're beginning to record, it should alarm anyone.
It should. It should in this case. And then, specifically more Mexico, because if you want to look at the number of cases that they have been recording day in, day out, they've been increasing by about 1,000 per day. Today we're at Friday at 5,662 cases. On Monday we were at 3,000 and then rising steadily by about 600. Now the cases are rising by about 1,000 a day.
That's high.
It's very
There's
high.
something that I've noticed. There's a trend. If you look at the countries where the numbers keep fluctuating, the country's measures keep blowing hot and cold, those governments are not stable. In terms of either there's an election coming, or they've just come out of an election, or there's some serious opposition that's going on.
Or they've
Look at all
eternally
these countries.
grappled with,
Yes,
sound
they're having
governments, yeah.
something,
That's a good
a
analysis.
governance issue.
That's a good analysis.
Many of the countries, even Brazil itself. Look, the president has
Had issues for some time.
had issues. Brazil itself has come out of, changing a president. Now we have this leader. The leader himself is even going to a point where he's threatening to bring in the military to run the country. He fired his health minister, brought in somebody who resigned after a short while. Now the person who's in charge of this health docket is a general. The man's cabinet has about 6 serving and former top generals, right? So there's already some sort of instability in our government. Some things, if you look at
It's
even the
enormous.
states election, TZ election. Many of these countries election, or a lot of push and pull on their governance.
And this started long before COVID.
Yep. So when COVID comes, it just finds a system that cannot focus. And that's
it's
why I
just
keep
getting
saying,
so
I
easy.
thank God that COVID started in 2020 in Kenya. If it was somewhere in the final quarter of 2021
Aye.
or early 2022, things would have been very different.
Chaotic at the very least.
Yep. Completely chaotic. Let's get into commercial break, take a look at weather as well. And then when we come out of this, we start looking at newspaper headlines. Remember, you can read the standard newspaper on your mobile phone this and every day by just dialing on your Safaricom mobile *550 *2 hash. *550 *2 hash. If you've got 20 bob airtime on your phone, that's all you need, and then you'll get to access the full standard newspaper. So when you do *550 *2 hash, it'll tell you that you'll receive an SMS shortly. An SMS will come and then give you a link. Click that link, it opens the Safaricom website, and then it asks you, do you want to just pay 20 bob to read today, or do you want weekly, or do you want monthly? You choose the option that you want, and then you get to read the standard newspaper. Shortly, I'll tell you how you can win 1,000 shillings worth of Safaricom airtime just by doing that. *550 *2 hash. Good morning, 17 minutes after 6.
.24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
All right, let's look at what things look like in Nairobi this morning. Starting off at 13 degrees, mostly cloudy conditions for most of the day, highs of 23 and lows of 13. Chance of showers quite high in the capital. Taking a look then into Nyeri. 13 degrees currently, highs of 22 and lows of 13 with thunderstorms, showers expected later on in the day. Nakuru is mostly cloudy this morning at 14 degrees, highs of 23 and lows of 13 with a chance of rain. It's going to be a wet weekend across most parts of the country today. Mostly cloudy in Eldoret this morning, into thunderstorms later with highs of 20. And in Kisumu at 19 degrees, highs of 26, again with thunderstorms later on. Kakamega follows in suit, highs of 24 and lows of 15, and it'll be a wet weekend in Western Kenya as well. All right, let's take a look at the coast where Malindi is partly cloudy and promising rain later with highs of 28 and lows of 25. It's partly cloudy in Mombasa at 24, likely to see a shower this morning. Highs of 29 and lows of 23. Kampala will experience thunderstorms for most parts of the day, well into the weekend and through till Monday morning, with highs of 24 and lows of 18 today. It's mostly cloudy at the moment. Dar es Salaam is clear with this morning at 23 degrees. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 22. It's a chilly morning in Johannesburg at 2 degrees. Patches of fog through most parts of the city. We'll see highs of 14 today and a chilly low of -1. In Lagos at 23 degrees, clear skies for now. Getting around about 6 o'clock, it'll open up with showers, highs of 28 and lows of 23. It's still Thursday night in New York, 19 degrees and cloudy conditions. They'll wake up on a cloudy Friday morning with highs of 23 and lows of 18. Paris is clear skies at 14 degrees, likely to have partly cloudy conditions later. There's a thunderstorm warning of yellow with highs of 23 and lows of 13. And wrapping it up in London for now at 14 degrees is partly cloudy. Showers expected later with highs of 19 and lows of 13.
So before CT Muga gives us today's proverb, let me give you today's money. 1,000 shillings worth of Safaricom airtime. If you call right now and you tell us how many pages is today's standard newspaper? How many pages is today's standard newspaper? 0719-012-600. If you just call and tell us how many pages the standard newspaper is, you stand a chance of winning 1,000 shillings worth of Safaricom airtime. Remember, you can find out this by reading the standard newspaper on your mobile phone. Just dial star 550 star 2 hash, star 550 star 2 hash. Only 20 shillings, and you get to read today's paper. If you went to the local vendor, you'll buy it, the physical paper at 60 bob. If you read it on your mobile device, it'll be 20 shillings. And it's the same paper. How many pages is today's edition of the standard newspaper? You've got between now and 7 o'clock. Do that and call in, and you stand a chance to win. CT, today's proverb.
No matter how long a log stays in water, it doesn't become a crocodile.
You're reminding us this.
I'm going to repeat it. No matter how long a log stays in water, it doesn't become a crocodile. This is a Bambara saying.
Who are these?
Or Bamana. Yes, these are people who come from southern Mali.
Okay.
They come from what you call the Mande community. Yes.
So they are Mandi and they are Babra.
No.
What are they?
Okay, for instance, you come from central Mande, but you are Bambara.
Or the central community.
Kirinyaga.
It's a central community,
Yes.
but the Ndia.
Yes.
Okay.
Now you're being specific.
Or from Kirinyaga, but
Yes.
Ndia.
Yes. Even if
It's the Kirinyaga people from Ndia.
even
or
if
from
even
Geshogo.
if you are specific, bas. Now you'll have gotten it.
Okay.
Because people, there's that fundamental difference. Yes. I think you've gone to the heart of the matter.
Okay. No matter how long a log stays in water,
It doesn't become a crocodile.
it does not graduate.
No, it doesn't. Even if it looks like a crocodile, it still isn't a crocodile.
Still will not become a crocodile.
No.
Okay. Very many interesting stories in today's newspapers. And where do you want to start?
I'm going to start from the little story on the front page of the Standard. Blow to Uhuru as court says the city takeover deal is illegal. Invalidated. Agreement for the transfer of key Nairobi County functions to the national government runs into legal headwinds after the Labour Court rules the deal overseen by President Uhuru Kenyatta violated the law.
Is it the whole deal or is it the attempt to transfer staff? What part is the court raising
Taking issue with? Okay, well, let's look at the details of the story. And what it says essentially is that Sonko wins round one in row with Uhuru over City. What it has said is that the court has declared the Nairobi County takeover deal between Governor Mike Sonko and President Uhuru Kenyatta illegal. The deal. In a decision that now places the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, a product of the deal, in a legal dilemma, Justice Helen Wasilia declared that failure to seek Nairobi County Assembly's approval rendered the deed of transfer document and subsequent appointments unconstitutional. The case was filed at the Employment and Labour Relations Court by activist, guess?
Okay.
Tata, and supported by Sonko, who had since vowed to fight to have the agreement terminated, citing frustrations by people close to the president. Justice Wasilwa, in her judgment yesterday, also found that the document signed by Sonko, and which the governor later claimed not to have read before signing, did not provide for NMS as a partner to the county. She said the deed of transfer was vague on how the takeover would happen and who was to do what in the arrangement. She gave the government 90 days to regularize the takeover. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it is done. It just means that, okay, if this, as it is now, it cannot operate that way. It needs to be clear in terms of exactly what is going to happen.
So just clarify this and then you can
Clarifications are being sought. And if those clarifications are made and it goes back to court and it is agreed upon, then this takeover still will continue.
So it's a delay, basically.
It is. It's a 3-month delay.
And the issue here is also the transfer of more than 6,000 county employees.
Right.
The judge saying, you see, NMS is not a partner of the county government of Nairobi. Whatever deal you signed does not call it a partner. So you cannot say that, take staff from Nairobi County.
And you move them here.
And then you move them to this other one. But basically what we are left with here is an NMA that has been allocated money from the National Treasury, from the Exchequer, because it's under the Office of the President. An NMA that's also receiving money because on the same page 8 of the Standard, it says City Hall prepares to pay 3 billion shillings owed to suppliers. The money has been given to the NMA. You see, so NMA has cash without workers. Good place to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
They have the money.
And yet, if you read the article further,
Yep.
the county of Nairobi has also been claiming some colossal sum, 400 billion from the government and parastatals.
Where?
It's an interesting back and forth. An evil thought passed through my mind. Just passed through. I didn't give it residency, so it's gone. But let me just state it nonetheless.
Okay.
Might one not think that the courts are hitting back?
It's the first thought that crosses your mind. When you hear court, government, you're thinking, court hitting back. But you see, it's an unfortunate position that the judiciary finds itself in right now. Because that's the immediate perception that you'd get, and that perception can actually be taken advantage of by very many other people.
It can.
Say, we are not going to obey a court order by a judiciary that is just going to hit us.
But the judiciary don't have, if I'm to go by what I perceive anecdotally as the image that it has among the general public, it isn't a negative one. Not really. Not really.
True. And it brings in a lot of these issues. But let's see how it plays out. Again, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, this one is here to stay, at least for the next 2 years. It's an office that has been established by Executive Order number 1 of 2020. It's in the Office of the President.
What is of
1,
interest?
it's there. 2, when budgetary allocation or appropriation is made to the Office of the President, it's going to get its vote. 3, County Assembly of Nairobi will eventually pass over some money to the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. 4, the governor of Nairobi, Mike Mbuvi Sonko, will still be governor for at least in the foreseeable future.
Oh, it's still governor.
So,
Do you know what I like about this whole thing is the different arms of government doing what they actually ought to do.
Yep.
The executive doing what it believes is right.
Yep.
The judiciary also doing what
it-
they believe is absolutely correct. This is good.
Hey, this is it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be let's just hope that in the end, the people of Nairobi are the ones that are going to receive better service.
Better service at
Because
the
at
end of the day.
this
That's what you
point,
would hope.
they are not. Remember, we are giving away 1,000 shillings worth of Safaricom airtime this morning by you answering a question: how many pages is today's Standard newspaper? And you can find out this by just reading the Standard newspaper on your mobile phone. Just dial *550*2#. 20 shillings only. You get to read your newspaper on your mobile device. Now, 0719-012-600 is the number to call. Judy Wanjiko calling in from Mombasa. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Mombasa kwaambaje?
Kwa salama.
All right, Judy, how many pages is today's edition of the Standard newspaper?
It has 64 pages.
How many?
64.
64.
Yeah.
Hey, why do you say so?
I have it.
On your mobile phone?
Yeah.
On your mobile device?
Sorry?
You're reading it on your mobile device and it's 64 pages.
Exactly.
Okay. Now let me just open the online edition as well and see with you what is the first, the last page.
Sorry?
The last page.
Okay, the last page.
I've seen. Yes.
NIE.
NIE, the newspapers in education.
Yeah.
That is correct, Jane Wanjiko. Congratulations and thank you very much. When you read it on your mobile device, you actually get 64 pages because there's the pull out and there's everything else. Congratulations, Judy. You'll speak to our producer John, who will take your details. You win 1,000 shillings worth of Safaricom airtime.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Good day, sir.
It's a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, what we're talking about is you reading the Standard newspaper from your mobile device. Star 550 star 2 hash. That's star 550 star 2 hash. And, well, with that, it tells you will receive an SMS shortly. You receive that SMS. It has a link. You click on the link. Then it brings you this page which asks you, what do you want? Do you want to read just today's edition, which is 20 bob? Or do you want to subscribe to the full week? Or do you want a full month circulation of the Standard on your mobile device? Today's edition, 64 pages on a mobile device, 20 shillings. Congratulations to Judy Wenjiko. 6:30, let's take a look at traffic and then other headlines. Good morning.
Okay, Juja Road is looking good this morning. It's a Friday, so we expect a little bit of drama this morning and quite a number of people probably leaving Nairobi. But for now, it looks like everything is going smoothly from Juja Road to Mombasa Road. Outer Ring flowing absolutely beautifully now. Coming off Thika Road, getting into the CBD, it's great. Enjoy it while you can, because I'm sure that in a short while, it's probably going to clog up just a little bit. We'll take a look outbound on Thika Road and see what that looks like. Outbound on Mombasa Road as well, the greater Mombasa Road. We'll take a look at that later. But for now, things are looking pretty good in most parts of the city. We're going to look into Mombasa, Kisumu, Eldoret and Nakuru in a short while. But I don't think that we're going to have many issues there for now. But we'll be here to let you know. Spice FM KE, reach us on Twitter for anything that you might see that we can share this morning. It is the beginning of the weekend, and we want to make sure that everybody's moving as smoothly as they possibly can.
The Situation Room is live streaming on www.spicefm.co.ke. It's also live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Spice FM KE. Page 9 of the Standard. Ward reps vow to kick out Nyong'o man again. Kisumu. Hey. Ward reps in Kisumu have begun the process of kicking out the county's energy and industrialization executive, Nyeri Achar, from office. This is the second time that Achar is facing an impeachment process after the county assembly voted him out of the finance docket in 2019. He has challenged his impeachment in court. The case was dismissed in March this year. Achar, however, found his way back to the cabinet after Nyong'o appointed him to the Energy and Industrialization Department. Now the officials in the county are facing a second fight to save his job because the ward reps are insisting that he cannot defend budgetary allocations for his department as he stands impeached. As far as they are concerned, they dealt with this matter last year. They impeached him. Mm-hmm. He went to court. The case was dismissed in March this year, which means he did not win. Mm-hmm. However, the governor gave him another job in a different docket. Now, he's coming to defend the vote for that docket in the assembly. And they're like, who are you, my friend? Wait, who are you again? Is this the man we kicked out?
Why are you still here?
Why are you still here?
Well, I think what is really under debate here it is not Nyeri Achar. It's the governor.
It's the governor?
Yes, it's the governor, because essentially by reappointing him, the governor was actually going against the action that the assembly had deemed to be fit and which the court had sided with them. Yes. If the assembly kicks you out, you go to court, they tell you, please go back to factory settings. This one doesn't make sense to us.
Yeah.
You're out of a job because the county assembly actually does have the powers to do precisely that. They were not acting outside their mandate. Yes.
Which is what he was actually going to court to claim, that
Yes.
they were acting out of their mandate.
And the court did not agree with him.
The court dismissed that issue.
Yes.
And then, so what does dismissing the issue mean?
It means
That what the county assembly has done stands.
that's what it should mean. The governor doesn't seem to share that particular view.
Nope.
Okay. This is
The controversy around this gentleman has been there for the longest time.
for Neriachar.
Oh, yes,
What's
it
the
has.
issue?
The issue is there are those who claimed that, one, he didn't even have the qualification to have been Minister for Finance. They said he didn't have a finance background, said he didn't have even an accounting background, and they wondered how he even got the job. Now, that was one. Many people blamed him for the non-payment that the county, of the monies that the county owed vendors
Yep.
when he was Minister for Finance. It was an ongoing saga. People who are owed money going to 4 years, people who are, by the way, some of it had actually been transferred from the previous government. But when you're on that docket, it is you
Yep.
who is blamed. And even when money was given by the national government to sort out this problem, the problem simply was not sorted out. So I think what happened, and then remember, the county assembly itself had some issues regarding their own functions.
Yeah.
And they figured, you know what? This guy is
It's the thorn.
He's irritating us.
Forget, he's not making sense. Let
Yeah.
him go.
He's irritating us.
So they impeached him.
They impeached him.
Hey.
I think there's something that hasn't quite been understood. The county assembly is a parliament.
It is.
And the constitution gives them powers to do precisely that. They can get rid of you.
Yes.
The executive has always acted, even within the county, they've always behaved as though you can't touch them. That
Yeah.
it's the governor who decides whether they stay or not. Not true.
Yep. Yep.
Not true.
I think a lot of
It's
them
the
are
assembly.
facing this grim reality now.
Here's the thing, though. If he went to the lower court and the lower court dismissed the case and he files an appeal,
Let him file an appeal.
so you have to wait. Basically, as far as then Nyong'o is concerned, the impeachment does not stand because he has not exhausted all avenues for appeal. This one can take this matter even to the Supreme Court.
You know, he could.
In the
but
meantime.
He could, but there's a problem here. The government then puts himself in the line of fire, and he himself may very well face an impeachment.
An impeachment.
Yes.
He opens himself up to impeachment.
Because remember, the one docket that has been changed more times than we can count has been the health docket, to the point where the governor himself appointed himself as the CEC for health.
Yep.
Did that stop the strikes?
No.
Did it ensure that the workers got paid? No. So,
This can be grounds.
and it isn't the first time. This is an ongoing problem that somehow does not seem to be resolved.
Yeah.
Yes. Yet, the one thing that the national government does regularly, despite the many things it's been blamed, it ensures people get paid.
Yep. Money for salaries is sent.
Yes. So where does the money for the health workers go to if it's been sent?
And these are the questions that they've been asking, and they've received a lot of nothing in terms of answers. And this is what has then created the frustration
You
that
know-
we see playing out through now the demands for men such as Achar to
You
be
know,
removed.
you know the problems with this issue that people keep hearing, and you see, City Hall prepares to pay 3 billion owed to suppliers. The national government was very clear about how you should even pay these people. You started with those who had been owed for the longest.
The oldest bill.
That is the one you sort out.
Vet,
Now,
verify, pay.
Yes. And you want to ask the question, how did the county get to owe someone money for 4 years? 3 years, 2 years. And yet you'll find there are people who have been owed money for a couple of months and they get paid.
They get paid. Yeah. Other people get paid and others don't get paid. Those are the dynamics in the counties. Hey, other headlines.
Exams by April or students repeat class, according to CS Education, Dr. George Magoha. Professor, sorry. Tough options as the school calendar takes a hit from COVID-19. The state says exams will be done in April, but once failure to reopen in September means that learners will have to repeat classes. He was touring Nakuru County yesterday and looking at, some of the measures that they hope will be put in place when if schools open in September. But one thing that he said that was interesting was that, this is what we said, yes. However, we are seeing that on a daily basis, the cases continue to rise.
Yep.
If that continues, and if the government tells us something else, just understand that what we may have said a month ago is not cast in stone. It will change. He repeated that there is no way he will allow for children to go back to school when the threat and danger of COVID is still there.
I think this man communicates, but because people want to hear what they want to hear, they don't hear what he says.
They don't hear what he's saying.
Because this man has been consistent from the very beginning. The issue of reopening of schools does not even feature. The issue of fighting COVID is what is
This is a health issue. And he said it again yesterday. This is a health issue. And he repeated, he said, do we want our children dead or do we want to wait a while to make sure that things are under control before we go back? So he went round touring, and I think the thing was that because he went round touring, making sure that we would be able to do this in terms of provision of masks, provision of sanitizing booths, and etc. etc. People then thought, okay, this means that they're preparing and schools open. But I think he now came around and said, okay, this is good that we're doing all this. However, we see that the cases it's not final.
More so when you look at the numbers of infections rising, or the numbers
of confirmed infections.
Yes, exactly. Now, he will have grounds to say, folks, given what we are seeing, it would be unwise to reopen schools. It would be unwise to open universities. It would be unwise.
Some of the things here that I believe there was something he said. He said, even as I'm saying this, it may cause alarm in some quarters, but that alarm is all right because it's not going to kill anybody if your child graduates at 18 instead of 17.
Yeah.
The world is not going to stop. If your child goes to primary 1 at the age of 8 instead of 7, it's okay. The child is alive and we're still here to be able to. So we look at things cast in stone and say, this date, it must be this date. It must be at this age that this child gets into school or finishes or does an exam.
It's that
We're
old
dealing in
problem
abnormal times.
of our reluctance to actually just change. These are really abnormal times. And even that simple fact hasn't sunk in many people's minds.
No.
Just to understand that, please don't expect things to function the way they have because they are not the same.
Yeah.
Even that hasn't sunk.
It hasn't, because, interesting, as this was done on another forum with educators, people began to speak yesterday and they said, I had already planned it and my child should actually go into class 1 at 7. And by the time my child was born, for real, my child was born in January. And by the time schools are opening, she has just turned 7. She should have been in primary. So come January, she's turning 8. She should be in class 2. So you can understand people's reluctance to change is that you've already fixed it in your head a certain way. It must be this way. She had already planned, my child will graduate at 17, and I already know the university that my child will go to, assuming that all matters will remain constant. This is the thinking of very many people that, that's okay that COVID is here, but, we need to continue with things as they were.
There was a time when people would go to secondary schools when they're already married.
Yeah, okay.
Because someone finished standard 8. We talk of 14.
Yeah.
There's a time when people finished standard 7 when they were 11 or 12. Now it's 14, 15. It's considered normal. See, there's that change. So you would finish your Form 4 at the age of 16. You'd get to university when you're 18. But there are other parts of the world where people go to university after the equivalent of National Youth Service. So you're going to university when you're like 21 or 22.
Yep.
Now, that's when many people assume that they'll have finished university. But
Yeah.
this person gets to university when they're fairly mature.
Yep.
Their approach to everything they're going to learn is really very different. But more importantly, why am I mentioning the time that when people would actually come to secondary school and they already had wives? Even university, many people in my time would come to university when they already had wives at home.
They'd use the boom to send money back home.
But they were educating their children. Forget relatives.
The university loan is educate, not you.
Not you.
No, the people at home, and you also have children,
Yeah.
and there's a wife at home who needs, because people got married at the age of 17, 18.
Yeah.
Girls got married at the age of 15, 16. It was a reality. It has changed. We now think it's something that's an anomaly.
Anomaly.
Yes.
Right.
So, and we didn't have COVID.
There you go.
Now we have COVID.
Oh no, and this COVID is a reality.
And we're arguing about, the backs and forths,
I mean,
opening school, we're not
But
opening
people
school.
are alive, which, I mean, and if that is what you want, the status quo that should be maintained is alive. Let's be there, and then all these other things can fall in place. So I think it is a shifting of the mindset, or complete turnaround of the same is what is required.
You see, and also there's this belief that people seem to be stuck with, that the reality that they have is the only reality. It isn't.
The world doesn't start and stop with
It
you.
isn't.
doesn't.
It's a reality that you've developed based on the times in which you live in and the circumstances that were around you. Right now, those have changed. It's like having a high-end job and then you retire. What you forget is now there is no salary every month. There's pension. So you really do need to make this particular garment
Fit.
the cloth that you have, and that
Yeah.
cloth isn't. Now, many people have difficulties. That adjustment is something that many people have difficulties with, and partly it's because they haven't planned for that particular time. And yet you know that when this happens, this is what I'm going. Yes, you see?
It's coming.
And when people are complaining, it's happening to everybody in the country.
This is the thing that I just was thinking, it's not just you in your little cocoon. Everybody at the same time, look, not country, world, globe, planet, is going through this same thing. So this change that is going to affect you as an individual is affecting everybody else. So you get on this train, or there really is nowhere to be left behind too.
Let's see what happens in this. 12 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room this morning, just as every day this week, is C.T. Muga, Ndu Okoa, and Eric Latif. We are looking at interesting stories in the newspapers this morning. Interesting headline here on page 7 of the Standard. A cleric not yet buried 10 months later as keen fight for wealth. Now, this is the story of Archbishop Musa Magodo of the Magodo International Ministries, who died on the 2nd of September 2019. The death of the founder of these ministries set off a series of battles pitting his family members over a vast array of prime property that he left behind. 9 months later, the body, which was at Chiromo Mortuary, was then transferred to Umash and is yet to be buried as the family tussles over the vast wealth running into millions of shillings left by the cleric. Those left wallowing in the uncertainty is the church and the children's home, which were both founded by Magodo. At one time, the cleric started a TV station known as Joy TV, which later changed name to Magodo TV. It has since closed, leaving only the Christian Broadcasting Network, which managed the station. A will seen by the Standard seems to have torn the family apart. Some family members have even claimed that their lives are in danger over their stand on the same. Back and forth, clearly, it's unfortunate. It's about wealth. It's always about the money.
And you've forgotten a little detail there, my brother. 3 wives.
Abbas. Okay.
And
So we're talking about three homes.
Yes, at the time of his passing away, he was living with the youngest. Yes.
Okay, the number of children. The first marriage, Magodo and Margaret bore 3 children. The second marriage to Nekesa begot 2 children. Last marriage to Ingaiza gave the couple 3 children who are still minors.
8 in total.
Imagine. And according to the will, the properties span across Nairobi, Kajiado, Kiambu, Nakuru, Laikipia, Siaya, Machakos. 12 properties in Nairobi, some in high-end estates like Karen and Gigiri, 24 properties in Limuru, while Ngong has 5, including an 11-story building whose construction has just been completed. Also in the will are 2 motor vehicles which he wished to leave with his eldest son, Akalomba Magodo, and wife Ingaiza. But he also said in his will that he is bequeathing and giving his land parcels to his children and his wives. There's a will. This is not a man who's just died without a will.
No, there is a will. So the will is being contested.
And the will is now being contested.
What I find amazing is that he's left nothing to the church.
See, the family will continue the church. Church is Magodo International. So anybody bearing the name Magodo and wishes to continue with the church.
So we hope.
They continue. Okay.
There's this gentleman who was a televangelist, one of the early televangelists, who even aspired to be the president of this nation.
Bishop Piers Moiro.
Yes. What was his ministry called?
Kunanuru
Gizani. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. When you mentioned the family taking over, I have remembered that he has a son who is also a pastor.
Yeah.
Yes. So it is very, very likely.
It's likely that if he's brought them up in the church and they know that this is our job is ministry, then he may also have a successor.
You know, this is a good business.
You have a succession plan. It shall remain. That's why this is called a Magodo International Ministries, not a TO Christ.
Had you heard of it
Even
before?
the TV, Joy TV, he changed it to Magodo.
Had you heard of it before?
I hadn't heard of
Nope.
it. I hadn't actually. I've never heard of the gentleman.
Neither
Never.
have I.
I hadn't heard of the gentleman.
Nope.
Neither have I. Because he clearly isn't media savvy as, say, the gentleman of Neno. The Neno Church.
Nganga.
Yes. Because Nganga doesn't lose an opportunity to be in the media, does he?
Or should we say he's not as deliberate as Nganga is?
Or is it the media who likes Nganga?
Well, he's a bit controversial, so I think anything that
A
is
bit.
controversial flies.
A bit.
Okay, well, I was just being,
Because of the
measured this
character of the
morning.
person. Probably Archbishop Magodo had decided, no, my character
Low-key.
is... yes, it's low-key. And even when it's low-key, it's got to be a certain caliber. Yeah? Because you see also other archbishops who, you know them, but you don't know them the same way you know Pastor Nganga.
No,
You know them in a different light.
we do actually.
So it goes with that. We'll be looking at more newspaper headlines even in the next hour. And today, just like we promised yesterday, we want to revisit the story of teen pregnancy and the statistics that have been released and what exactly is happening in this particular case. There are cases of defilement. There are cases of children not able to access justice. We are not talking about just the girl child. We're also talking about the boy child. And basically children at home right now and what they've been going through. It's a reflection of what has been happening in our society. It's not because of COVID. It's not the COVID bug that has bitten people and ended up leading to this. No, it is indicating that this is who we have been all along. So we'll discuss this in great detail, right? In the show this morning, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., we basically dedicated to our children as a country. CT, coming to the top of the hour.
No matter how long a log stays in water, it doesn't become a crocodile.
And this is from which people again? Of
They
which
are
country?
called the Bambara or Bamana. They come from the southern part of Mali.
Okay. It's another Malian proverb.
One
One of these days, give us a Somali proverb.
I will give a Somali
Or
proverb.
from the hair.
You know, I'm actually moving around if you notice
yow.
carefully. But I will look. The who?
The owl.
The other thing.
Okay.
I will. In this coming week, I will now move to the eastern part of Africa and go south.
Good. It's a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it right here. The conversation continues. It's now 7 o'clock. Good morning.
Mombasa Road this morning, no issues. All the way to Cabanas, clear of traffic and no issues whatsoever. It's turning out to be a fantastic Friday morning. Let's cross our fingers and hope that nothing changes. Thika Road, on the other hand, unfortunately, there's already an accident at Survey towards the exit from Thika Road. There's an accident there. It's involved a number of vehicles, so that's slowing things down inbound to the CBD. Outbound, there seems to be a hold-up. On further up ahead on Thika Road, it is the weekend, like we said, so this is to be expected. Let's wait and see what that looks like. But it's not too crazy from wherever we're looking at it right now, and hopefully it doesn't change too much. But we're here to tell you if it does, so that you can plan your journeys accordingly. You see anything out of the ordinary, please do let us know. Spice FM KE, reach us on Twitter so that we can let everybody know what it looks like and make it easy to move around this morning.
Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and
headline in the inner pages of the nation. Because the top page of the nation, we're going to come and discuss it. So,
Something else that you'd like to know about.
Yeah.
So, we're getting around to the time where the Mara spectacle, or the great migration, as it were, which thousands, millions of people come. Okay, hold on. It's millions of wildebeests, so it's thousands of people coming to see this. And COVID would stifle that from what we see, because we're getting to the season where it was just about to happen. It's summer in the Western Hemisphere, the Northern Hemisphere rather, and so everybody was moving, enjoying their summer holidays as it were normally. But because of COVID, the annual wildebeest migration has kicked off actually in the Masai Mara Game Reserve, with no tourists to witness the spectacle. It's interesting how there's COVID and humans have stopped, but nature continues. The wildebeest don't know that there's COVID. They know that they need to migrate to breed and to feed. So they're carrying on with their business as normal. And the world, in terms of humans who would normally come and look at this, are the ones who are not there. But they're carrying on with their business. So, I mean, it gives an interesting perspective to how
So
things
the Lions are
normally
playing in an empty stadium, basically.
Yeah, that's what's going on. More than 2 million wildebeest are expected to cross over into the Serengeti National Park in Tanzania. Hotels, lodges, and tented camps in Masai Mara have remained closed since March due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The employees of these facilities have also been sent home, leaving the hotel pools and other facilities to be enjoyed by the wildlife. Traditionally, the migration has lit up tourism in the country, with thousands of tourists visiting the reserve to witness the animals crossing over. But this will not happen this year. It was one of the first things I heard about Kenya, actually.
But the wildebeest migration.
Yes.
Oh, that's why you didn't want to come.
No.
Okay, I thought you were landing in the Mara.
No, I wanted to go somewhere else, but
You're gonna be
that's a
eaten by a
story for
lion.
another day.
Okay.
I thought I was going to be what? Eaten by a lion.
or eaten by a zebra.
That's actually funny.
Or a crocodile log in the
I
water.
will give you, be ready. One day, I will give you the story from beginning to end. We'll even invite audience participation.
Well, where?
But it's not today. Today, we're talking about...
You are trying to run away from your destiny.
Oh, good Lord. Destiny can be changed, my friend.
What is written is written.
Can be erased and
It
rewritten.
is written,
Ugh.
Nduoko, that you shall become Kenyan. Don't run away from that. So, the front page of the Standard then. Ruto opens a parallel Jubilee Party office. So, the Deputy President yesterday hosted a number of MPs at some office on Riara Road, and this now has been called the Jubilee Asili Office Center. Jubilee Asili Center. Some MPs, the MPs, especially those who are in, to use the words that the Deputy President used in a tweet, he had lunch with Jubilee MPs who were recently assigned other responsibilities in the party. And he thanked them for the exemplary service to the party and the nation. Sote pamoja. So those who are recently assigned other responsibilities, which included just doing nothing, the responsibility is having lunch with the Deputy President.
And
This is
opening a new center.
And opening a new center. They were meeting yesterday. Jubilee Asili. What does this tell you, City?
What it tells me, if it has webbed feet and it quacks, looks like a chicken, but it isn't. And it has bills instead of, what is that thing called?
Beak.
Thank you. See, it's a good thing we're going to school. Okay. It's most likely a duck. In this particular case,
Could it be a goose?
they don't quack. They don't quack. Geese don't quack. Yes.
They honk. But
Yes,
okay.
they do. It's like the honk, the way a vehicle honks.
The honk.
Yes.
Yes, and they honk really loudly. Okay. Now,
In fact, some people actually keep them as guard pets, like dogs. But anyway,
and they keep many because, man, the sort of noise they make, they'll scare the would-be perpetrator.
And they fight, right?
Or they are vicious and they are combative. Okay. The thing is, we can say all we like. And I can see Senator Murkomen explaining it and saying
Some
this
more.
Jubilee Annex is actually opened to everybody and all members of Jubilee can come in. That's okay. That's political speak. We understand it. In context, it's a thing that you ought to say. But the truth is, Jubilee has split.
This is it.
No, it split a while back. But what we're now seeing is like you cut down a big tree. It will take quite some time before all the leaves dry up. the leaves are drying up. So if you doubted that tree has been cut down, this is it.
This is it.
No, this is it. This is it.
So this is basically, we are starting with other Asilis. So the other Jubilee will be left as Jubilee what? Kenya?
That's Jubilee. They don't have to change into anything. They already just Jubilee. But what
Take
is
us
certain,
back to the Ford days. Because when you think of Asili, you just go back into Ford Asili. So we had the Forum for the Restoration of Democracy in Kenya.
Yes, and it had serious heavyweights.
Everybody in the opposition was in Ford.
My friend, it had heavyweights. It had really serious heavyweights. If you're talking about Jaramogi, if you're talking about Kenneth Rubia, if you're talking about Matiba,
Shikuku.
and the list went on and on and on and on. Then, the late Kenneth Matiba, I think, had an epiphany. And they figured, this is all good and well, but
I'm the one who ought to be.
I think that it would be good if I had a party because this presidency, I think, the argument had been, let Jaramogi be. It was understood. Jaramogi is senior most politician. We're going with the presidency, Jaramogi. Kenneth Matiba came with his outfit and called it Ford Asili. Of course, Ford was later to split into many other Fords. Okay? But when Kenneth Matiba created that split, now there was a challenge. And believe me, Ford as we knew it had more or less breathed its last breath. When it showed any signs of life was when they had joined hands with the DP around the year 2002. That's when now Ford actually became what it had already been. But really, the luster and the fight that it had gone.
Gone. So it basically became Ford Asili of Kenneth Matiba, and the other Ford was left for Jaramogi, and they went to the election. And of course, Mwai Kibaki formed the DP from the very beginning.
He had been there. You see, he didn't join Ford.
He was not in Ford. He came out straight out of Kanu, said DP.
And even, I think it was very timely. I mean, there are many people who were upset with him. They felt that from those who say there's been an understanding of what he should do. But I don't think he shared that particular view with them. No, not particularly.
What was the understanding? What was he supposed to do?
He was supposed to join Akina Matiba.
He was supposed to come. If you're leaving Kanu, you come here.
Yes, that he was supposed to go there.
To the opposition.
Yes. And Matiba didn't quite share that view. I remember around that time is when Matiba had given this analogy, a beautiful one, that trying to dislodge Kanu and Moi.
Kibaki had done.
Yes, this Kibaki.
Yeah.
Was like trying to cut a mugumo tree with a razor blade.
Yep.
I actually liked that. It was nice. Yes. Because you think of a mugumo tree, fairly big tree, razor blade, but that thing is impossible.
Yep.
For the razor blade, it'll probably break.
It'll take you forever.
Or cut you before you cut the tree.
Yeah.
But when things really started heating up from the DP, and that began, the proliferation of multipartyism in its real essence.
Yep.
Many other political parties
came up as a result of that.
They
Yes.
did. So this one, we're talking about Jubilee Asili.
Just another one.
Well, let's observe and see.
It's just, again, ODM came together, 2005 referendum, fight a referendum together, get the no vote to win, and all of you agree, let's make this orange thing a party. Orange becomes a party.
It wasn't a party before. This one,
No,
forget,
it
it was
just
a
becomes a
movement.
party.
It was a movement. It was a direction of an argument, and this direction then became something that
Just give it was fruit.
It
was actually.
basically it was the fruit of a thought, right?
But
And
remember, that merging of big names also happened in ODM.
Same thing.
And we saw it.
And then Kalonzo wanted to move away from, and Kalonzo now again forms ODM. He's also ODM Kenya, right?
This is ODM Kenya, not ODM Asili. That's ODM Kenya.
ODM Kenya, which later became now
Wiper.
See, this it's where we're heading now.
But you know the question that I am asking myself, one of the things that President Moi was credited for, it was said that he encouraged other, because he had understood the benefit of having many parties. He encouraged the proliferation of parties, and he also encouraged many people standing for the presidency.
Yep.
Because the one thing it guaranteed is that it split votes. Like when Ngilu stood for presidency,
Yeah.
that meant some Kamba votes were
Gone.
definitely gone. Kibaki stood. It also meant central Kenya.
Split.
Yes, and it went on and on. Remember, Raila also stood. Orang also...
Did at some point. Big Jim did. Yes, he did.
He gave it a shot. Okay? So, the truth is, all we are seeing is the opening up of the political space. That's all we are seeing.
There are those that feel, okay, first of all, it was ill-advised of all these parties, especially URP, to agree into a merger with TNA and become Jubilee. That they should have continued saying that we have a pre-election coalition, just like they had in 2013, have URP, have TNA, and then call it a Jubilee Alliance or Jubilee Coalition. Fine. Bringing out the other parties, the PNUs and the TIP-TIPs and the other smaller parties, let them come and all sign a coalition agreement, but each individual party retains its individual identity.
You know, there's a question.
And then now here we are, in the run-up to 2017, in 2016, they decide, let's fold these parties and create one strong party. And even let's put it in our agreement that at least for the next, 5 or 10 years, the other small parties shall remain silent and quiet. So you cannot revive URP because there's already an agreement that you signed and said, as we are getting into this particular coalition and forming one party, we are basically keeping our political parties silent. So now he has no vehicle called URP to go back to. Now he's forming Jubilee Asili. It could metamorphosize into a political party. Maybe he just wants to use the name Jubilee, Sisini Jubilee Asili.
Eric, ask yourself a question. For that arrangement to actually mature and become what it was, what do you think must have been promised and what must have been given for URP to agree to fold up? It isn't that just people sat, drank tea and said, okay, we're talking about political parties.
There must have been some agreement.
Yes.
This is what we get.
Yes. That was the understanding. And what we get is A, B, C, D. So when people ask, for instance, how is it that the DP seemed to be so powerful? I think it points to what he got. Because he had the power to appoint people. He had the power to do many things.
He was influencing a lot.
He was allowed. That was, in my opinion, part of the understanding. So
We shall be equal partners.
Yes, so he realized whether my party folds or not, it doesn't really matter. I will have the power to do whatever it is that I had wanted to do as a politician.
Yeah.
So, party or not, with this agreement, I am better off. Because there was a time you actually got the impression that this presidency was actually a 50-50 arrangement.
It was a Nusumkate presidency.
You got that very distinct impression. Yes. And yet that's not what the Constitution states. Not really. So, if now they've decided to actually, not just to ensure that they encapsulate the thoughts that they've had, well, they've opened up a whole new chapter and it will have consequences.
16 minutes after 7. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. I can see our friend in Nyamira, Wilberforce, our political hound. He wants to call in and contribute to this conversation. Okay, it's all right. Wilberforce, let's take a look at the weather and then you can call in and contribute. Good morning.
All right, but the sun seems to be peeking through in some parts of Nairobi today. Still at 30 degrees, we will see partly cloudy conditions continuing, but a chance of rain is quite high for the capital this morning. Mostly sunny conditions in Nyeri for now, but we're going into a weekend of rain from Nyeri to Nakuru to Eldoret and also in Kisumu and Kakamega as well. Looking into the coastal towns, Malindi today will be showery later with highs of 28 and lows of 29. Mombasa as well, partly cloudy conditions with highs of 29. Taking a look then out of Kenya into Kampala, where 19 degrees, we're going to see thunderstorms later with highs of 24 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam at 24 degrees is sunny conditions through and through with highs of 31. Taking a look then into Johannesburg, where things were quite chilly this morning, still is at 2 degrees, and temperatures are lowering because we will see highs of 13 and lows of -1. Lagos is going to be showery later on, currently at 23 degrees, clear skies. And in New York right now, we see cloudy conditions through and through, going into a weekend of rain with highs of 27. Paris is partly cloudy this morning. Clear skies to follow, and then we'll go into rains later with highs of 23 and lows of 13. And finally, wrap things up in London for an hour. It's partly cloudy at 15 degrees. Showers expected later with highs of 19 and lows of 13.
So, we're talking about Jubilee Asili, which is pointing us somewhere. So there's a new building called Jubilee Asili Center, but everybody is still a member of Jubilee Original. So we basically know that this is the Tanga wing of Jubilee that is creating Jubilee Asili. It's pointing us towards a different direction, bringing us back to the whole conversation about, BBI, what's going to happen, and the discussion we were having yesterday with the new cooperation agreements being signed between Jubilee and the other political parties, Wiper, Chamacha, Mashinani, KANU, and the other political parties. A lot to be said. Wilberforce, the man from Nyamira.
Hello.
How are you?
Very fine, Eric.
I know you've heard Ruto Jubilee Asili. You're like, this is something I want to talk about.
I've just read on this on the Standard, and I like the headline.
A parallel Jubilee party office.
Yes, I told you yesterday, Eric.
Yes.
And I think I told you we shall be there to see, and we have just begun seeing. It has just begun with Jubilee Asili. I think I want to say 2, 3, or 4 things. One, when these two guys, that's the President Uhuru and Ruto, came together, they borrowed a leaf but didn't go to the original creator of what they were borrowing to understand how to work with it. That's now what's affecting our friend William Ruto. The whole story about coalitions is a Raila outfit, is a Raila brand to me. He's the one who came up with the idea in the year 2002. They destabilized KANU from power. What they forgot is that even when Raila was joining KANU in the year 2002 on 6th April, he didn't dissolve his NDP until it had been agreed that he would become the Secretary General of KANU. Why did he have to give that condition? He wanted his influence to be felt.
Well, there's also Wilberforce, that the fact that the merger needed to be ratified at a delegates conference of both parties, and that's the point where now it became formal. Before that, it wasn't a formal arrangement.
Thank you. Now, when these our two friends, President Uhuru and William Ruto, came together. Okay. Before we even come to that, remember during the Nusumkate, the real Nusumkate, the government of national
Unity,
National Accord,
National Unity.
There's 208 thing city. What was it called? The Kibaki and Raila formation after the skirmishes and what have you.
The Grand Coalition Government.
Yes, that one. People had their own interests. These were all considered as equal partners, that had to agree to have a country move together, but Raila didn't lose his ambition.
Mm-hmm.
When 2013 came, Raila comes up with a coalition called CORD. Ruto and Uhuru had a common factor, the ICC. This is what brought them together to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for Uhuru Kenyatta, he had more than the ICC. Ruto had just more than the ICC. He thought it would help him become president later. For Uhuru Kenyatta, he knew after getting out of the ICC and is now the president, he also has a legacy to leave behind. Yes? And so as we are now, where we are now, Ruto is left confused. A football commentator somewhere says, ukitaka kumuua nyani, usimwangalie. And this is what Ruto did when he readily accepted to dissolve his what was that party called?
URP.
And every other thing. He never thought what is happening today would happen.
But
today it is happening.
To be fair,
Yep.
Dissolving a party or not dissolving a party is really material. If you think about how they came, before URP, William Ruto was in another political party. When he left ODM, the deputy president moved on to another political party, and then UDM, yes, and then URP. Before President Kenyatta joined TNA, he was the chairman of KANU. So political party moving, dissolving, I think is really not a big deal. As long as the person is still there and you still command your influence. What do you think, City?
I agree with you. In fact, the only factor that really matters is the individual who leads those parties. Because if we were to go by Jubilee, it was at some point considered a Ruto-Uhuru party, but it's now considered an Uhuru party. If you look at ODM, we can run around as much as we like, but it's a Raila party.
Raila.
Yes.
Wiper is Kalonzo.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The point then is today, two people, Uhuru and Ruto, are living. Uhuru and Ruto are living Raila.
Okay. Well, sorry, we lost you. They're basically just like you said. This is a tree that fell a long time ago. The branches are now drying up. You can clearly see the leaves. The leaves have dried up. You can see the small branches.
Oh, unfortunately, I think we see with a lot of these mushroomings of these things that we see now is the last kicks of a dying horse, clearly. That, all right, let's try and do something to try and at least remain relevant. Where you see, again, your main source has dried up. It's done. It's just a final attempt to remain relevant, unfortunately.
Staying within the party gives you a certain surety. If someone wants to kick you out, they actually have to kick you out. Now, that also gives you some mileage. But if you move out, you've done their job for them. And the so-called sympathy votes that I've heard callers talking about, you've evaporated them.
Yes, and the thing is here in this case, you remain in the party, but you're actually a useless limb. And that getting out is akin to suicide on your own. Like you said, they're not going to force you out. They're not going to throw you out, but you're going to remain within those circles and you're not going to be able to do anything. Sitting lame duck. And that's what's going to happen with a lot of these folks is that you're not going to be out because where are you going to go? You're going to remain in, but in terms of powers, your wings have been clipped.
They may not be lame ducks.
No.
They're really not going to do much.
No, they may not
They will be. Actually, they'll have a lot of relevance when they stay within this party. You see, like now saying they have their own Jubilee Assili Center. They are still Jubilee MPs. They are still members of Jubilee, but they're noisemakers within Jubilee. It's the same thing that they were doing when they were Tanga and Kieleweke. Same thing. You are in this government, you are in this party, and you are the one who's opposing it from inside. Same thing we see now with Kipchumba Murkomen in the Senate. Point of order. What? She's just
to make noise, but in terms of being the voice of the party and in terms of being the power,
that is done. You'll not be voice of the party.
It's finished. It's finished.
But the point is the relevance to the electorate. Remember what you guys were saying yesterday. Who is the target audience? Who are they speaking to? If They are speaking to their target audience and still showing them we are still here.
And remember,
we
they're
are
still
strong.
in the
we
position.
are fighting.
If you make the mistake of setting up your own party and calling it so, believe me, you may have to resign.
Yep. Yep.
Because the party that took you to parliament or took you to senate may say, this guy is no longer a member.
Yeah.
Now, the moment that happens,
You're
we
done.
have an by-election ahead of us. So, this one, you stay within the party and you cause as much havoc as you possibly can. And you also try as much as possible to ensure that you paint the government
in as bad a light as possible as you can.
In as bad a light as you can. And this is going to play out with the issue of the governor of Kirinyaga.
True. We will see that playing out very well.
It's going to play out.
Very well. Justice in Kilifi, good morning.
How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Very interesting conversation since yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I confess I'm not good at political commenting, right?
Okay.
So I could be wrong. But let me look at it like this. The little I've seen of Kenyan politics and the building of brands and the campaigns depends on three things: history, character, and time.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by history is this: when this at the higher level, when the coalitions are going to be formed, when the right time matters, people will be asking about the history of trust and reliability. You can rely on Raila to give you a specific movement, a specific package of votes. But the question is, from experience, if you form a coalition with him, can you count on him 100% to run it vis-a-vis Ruto? If you look at their histories, Ruto has had coalitions with Raila. And one of the things you can say about the man, he commits. Absolutely. He committed to Raila, he committed to Uhuru. Absolutely. And that is a brand. By staying in, he's keeping that brand of being the person. When you have his word, he is with you.
But when
you
we
cannot
use the
say
word,
the same thing.
when we use the word absolutely, it implies that he's committed, come thick or thin, come rain or sunshine. But that's not the case. Even in the coalition with Raila, he left.
He left relative.
Yes.
He left when everybody was leaving. He didn't leave the same way you could say Raila left Wamalwa Kijana, the same way you can say Raila left Kibaki, the same way Raila left the other people. In that case, I'm not a supporter of either, but the one has shown consistency of being committed and not having an underhand plan. The second thing I talked about is about time. If you look at this 2022, it's not an ultimate timeline for Ruto, but for Raila it could be. So in that case, therefore...
How could it be for Raila?
Age.
In politics?
In biology. Forget about politics. Biologically.
I'm sorry to say, yes, age is the biological factor, but this is in relation to our politics.
How old is Raila right now?
I actually have no idea. How old is he?
He's 70 something, I think. And therefore, if he's 70, you can give a maximum of 10 years to be very active and the energy and the relevance in Kenyan politics. But Ruto, on the other hand, he can wait for the next 10 years, 20 years. So in other words, he's keeping faith to his brand. The other thing I said is about, what was it? It's about, I forget about it. You confused me. But the point I'm making is, that these two fellas have clear contrasts one can make. And if that comes to the case, it's very good that this Ruto is not exactly exiting the party, because if he exits the party, then he becomes the unhappy couple who has left his marriage. But he's keeping faith to his marriage. And then, the last thing I wanted to say is, remember the stories we used to campaign about, let contributions stop to churches, let's contribute because this is bad money.
Yep.
If you realize right now, because Nyani ni wale, the talk of corruption as a campaign issue has gone down. Because now we want to defend X, Y, Z, we are mobilizing votes. If that thing has been removed from the table, the sins of this government, he will not own them. The other people will own them. So when the campaign comes, framing corruption, which is very sensitive to many Kenyans, will either become an issue or a government issue. So what does that mean? Everybody begins campaigning from zero. But the sins of the government are owned by those who will be in government in 2022. Again, I apologize. I'm not a political commentator.
Justus, thank you very much for your commentary this morning.
Okay.
28 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a look at traffic. This conversation continues. Good morning.
All right, let's take a look out of the major cities today. And unfortunately, there's a roadblock at Maimahiu this morning, and it is causing unprecedented traffic. The escarpment at Maimahiu is a no-go zone this morning, in and outbound, and the roadblock is a total mess. So we have people leaving different counties, Nairobi being one of them, and the greater metropolitan area, unfortunately, as should not be, but is. So it's a Friday morning where people are leaving the city, and at Maimahiu have gotten stuck. And that's inbound and outbound. And it's likely to cause kilometers of traffic this morning. That's what we see today. And it probably is going to have our eyes on that for a while, because then it'll affect traffic all the way into certain parts of the city today. This is what we see, and this is what we're going to have to deal with for now. We'll give you more information about that as we get it. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. Other parts of the cities that we look at this morning seem to be A-OK. Traffic is flowing smoothly. Outbound is where we have the problem.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Constitutions are not necessarily written in stone. They are written to keep society moving and blending together, may need review. Whereas many chapters are absolutely excellent and Kenyans have seen great benefit, there may be some areas that we may need to review. And that's the reason for the referendum. So it is unfortunate that some have been...
in a video interview with the journalist, and it was talking about the trade ties between Kenya and America, and the question was broached by journalist Katrina Mason. There are those that are saying that, well, yeah, with this whole BBI process, you're trying to pull a Putin. By pulling a Putin is where you become president for a while, then you bring in Medvedev, who becomes president, and you become prime minister, and you just keep rotating. Is that the plan? So he was like, first of all, let's talk about the BBI. This is what the BBI agenda is all about, bringing peace and harmony throughout the election process. And then the issue of the presidency, it's very clear in our constitution, and Kenyans are absolutely clear in their minds that a president shall serve for 2 terms. The previous 2 presidents have observed that. I don't intend to be the first one to break that. What was he saying? That he's going home. He's going to Gatondo after 2022.
What he's saying specifically is that he will not run for the seat of the presidency again. Now, let's open up the discussion.
So he was asked again. He was asked now after that. He was asked, so are you also ruling out the premiership? He dodged that question very well. He played it very nicely. The way he answered it is, in a way to suggest that he is not going to... Basically, he said, I have no clue whether there's going to be a premiership in the constitution. You see, these are questions that people are now posing. I gave you a very clear synopsis of the areas where people are interested in. They're interested in the value of their vote. They're interested in the distribution of resources. They're interested in inclusivity in government. I have not heard of any of these other issues, and that's why I cannot comment about that. As far as I'm concerned, this has not been a principal issue of the whole Building Bridges initiative. The purpose is not there. All I can say is that the office that exists today is the office of the President of the Republic of Kenya. Our constitution is clear. Our president serves for 2 terms. I am now in my 2nd term. No president has broken that. I don't intend to do it. So has he answered on the issue of prime ministership?
Of course he has.
What has he said?
He has said...
He's telling you, I'm not going to answer you right now.
It's not
It's clear.
No, he said... Pay keen attention to what I'm saying and read my lips.
Read my lips.
Read my lips. That is an open-ended question. It's as simple
as that.
Yes.
Because he could have said, listen, even if he could have said, it's not a discussion now, but even if it emerged as a conversation, look, I have been president for 2 years. I don't intend to run to be head of government at any point.
He didn't say that.
He didn't. I said, this has not been an issue of the BBI. Well, obviously, we all know that the issue of BBI has the issue of premiership. It is one of the key sticking out recommendations.
You see,
whether it's a weak premiership or a strong premiership, we all know.
There's what the Constitution states, and there's what politically you would like to achieve.
Yep.
And then you look at the powers that are vested in the office that you have, and you look at the capacity and the areas of maneuverability that are available to you, and you utilize them. This is done the world over. Now, you see, the discussions around BBI, if you go beyond just the rhetoric, what is being said is this. It is clear that for there to be stability in this country, this cake called the presidency has to be bigger.
Yep.
So that people feel they have a say in the running of the government. And the only way we can do this is if we widen the scope. And the premiership gives us an opportunity to widen it. So instead of having 2 leaders, you can have 4. You can even have 6. So the representation now becomes broader. It quietens the noise. And people feel, not just that they're represented, they feel safer. Because of 2007, people do not feel safe with the domination of what they perceive as 1 or 2 communities. They do not.
Of course.
So you divide it up. So you lessen the perception of there being a likelihood of that again. Yes. So you can fight it as much as you like, but that is the reality.
So the president basically answered and said, I am not going to vie for the presidency of this Republic of Kenya.
Because that's the question which was asked.
That's the question that he was asked.
Then he was also asked, how do you rule out gunning for premiership?
You see,
this one?
No, he did the right thing. Why are we discussing something which doesn't exist?
Come on. Irongo Emos in Kisii.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm happy to hear the voice of City for some time now. There was a time he wasn't around. I was not very happy.
Now he's here.
Yes.
I take it that your joy is now complete.
It is.
Good.
Yes. While it is factual that Ruto's problems cannot be divorced from the BBI, that is the right factor coming in. There is one piece of advice I would give the advisors and those who are surrounding him, particularly Murkomen and those who are always talking about we are in Jubilee, are being done this and that. I am looking at what they are doing, and they are losing every game they are getting into. For instance, they were not able to advise the deputy president not to appear to be overshadowing the president at some point in very many respects, including appearing to insult the PBI and even the president himself. Now, this thing that is now being called Jubilee Asili, I know they would claim that it's not a party, so what are you talking about? But they should be very cautious, very, very cautious that though the activities that will come from that building do not suggest, even for a minute, that they are either forming a party or confronting Jubilee, which they do not own today, in a very, very meticulous way. Because that way, in fact, the president, as of late, proved to be one person who can go read the constitution of the party, read the constitution of Kenya, and kick people out the way he wants. So they have to be very careful to guard their space in Jubilee, because one more thing I want to tell them is this. 2022 is not very near. We still have a full year. Some people can easily go home. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mwalimu Irongo. To the line, basically. Lie low.
You know, the season that we are in, it would not end well if Ruto did not fight back. As I said yesterday, he'll be run over.
He's got to push back.
He has to. If you're a politician and you want to stay relevant, how else do you stay relevant? And the bottom line, people say, you know, this guy, ni mwanaume, eh? They may disagree with many things that the person has done, but say, you know, this guy at least
He's not going down without a fight, kind of
he
thing.
has gumption. You know, he's putting up a fight, and if he has spin doctors,
Which we know he does.
no, he doesn't. He doesn't.
He's no pushover.
He doesn't. You know why I'm saying he doesn't?
Efficient spin doctors he
he
may
has,
not have.
he has wannabe spin doctors.
There you go. Efficient spin doctors he may not have. But those who attempt to do a job here or there, in terms of spinning particular narratives for him, are not doing a stellar job, unfortunately.
Did you see that clip that did the rounds about Maraga?
Yes.
Now, that is
The
someone...
people behind there,
Now, those fellows
are proper,
know
what they're doing.
Okay? They make the story so believable. You may even have facts. The facts go out of the window completely. A case such as the deputy president's is not difficult to spin if you understand our politics and the history behind it. The damage that his acolytes have caused with the things, the utterances, man, these guys have no breaks in what they say. Unfortunately, that thing is stored for posterity, and people also don't forget. And there are unfortunate things that have been said. These are also not forgotten. So you can't go around painting yourself lily white and all of a sudden you expect people to just believe and follow. No.
Don't you think the hustler narrative has also caught up? I mean, it's really gotten the steam.
It has.
It's a hustler narrative. It has brought in a new conversation politically. It's not about tribes.
Yes.
It's about class.
It's about the haves and the have-nots.
The haves and the have-nots.
It has.
And there is an opportunity where somebody who does not have is trying to have, and those who have trying to, mudsling him and
Precisely.
paint
And this is
him
the story
as
of somebody
corrupt,
who
as
has,
stupid.
because he's joined the has, if I may call it that.
He's attempting to.
He's joined the haves.
No, he has.
He's just getting there, but he's still.
He's joined them.
He's being pushed out.
But he still has it.
Yeah, he has. That's why he's a hustler who's worked so hard to get. Once he gets it like this, those who have been there are trying to kick him out of this room. That's a hustler narrative.
This is now politics for you. And those spin doctors who perhaps helped him get that hustler narrative were prudent. It was a good move. But if it is spun by his would-be opponents, that thing can work against him terribly. The thing about this, you must remember that politics, by and large, is a game of perceptions. What you appear to be, what you are believed to be, not necessarily what you are.
You are.
If you look right now at the president, the perception people have of the president has changed.
Yep.
There are those who are saying the man is decisive.
Yep. There are those who are saying now the man is dictatorial.
Yeah, bars.
It
Now
has basically moved to
He's playing his power.
both sides.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And they're saying, at least we can see the guy is. That thing changed overnight. Why
He's not
did it
sleeping
change?
on the job. He's
Yes.
not quiet.
No.
He's alert. He's aware of what's happening around him.
Is there anything Uhuru is doing that he wasn't doing before, really? The answer is, if you look at the war against corruption, there's a serious move in that direction. But this one is also going to be put in the test when Senate debates the matter of Waiguru.
Next Thursday, yeah, that will come through.
However, how does the DP change the narrative, the negative narrative that has been in the public domain about him? How does he make it positive? Because so far, there's very little that I've seen being done by him and his acolytes that would change that narrative.
If anything, that's what's happening now. It would be the opposite of what you're saying. It seems as if they're trying and doing everything to maintain the negative image of him in the public sphere. Going ahead and going off and mushrooming and starting your own thing here and saying that those of you who were kicked out, like you said, still tanga, still going off in this direction. If anything, you're cementing that negative image that people have had.
What is the negative image again?
Well, I mean, here we are saying that, again, one who would go against the presidency, one who would say that I am not deputizing in my role, for example. And if I am being pushed out, I'm going to maintain that direction in which I've been pushed out to. And it just seems that you're still continuing in that way.
Okay.
If people thought that you had, you're going to change or whatever, it's still, look at what we see with look at what we see with the changing of, or this, opening up of Ford Asili. It's the same individuals, same people, still going in that direction, still maintaining the same narrative, regardless.
Consider the other side of that narrative. John in Nyandarua, good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you guys? How are you doing?
We are fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, okay, I'm very fine. Just wanted to contribute on this one. Now, I think what is happening, I told you the other time that these guys are going to give us whatever they want, not what we want. And I think whoever divides the BP borrowed a leaf from the late Kennedy Matiba. You see, when they disagreed in the original Ford with Odinga, Matiba went his way and formed the Ford Asili. So definitely whoever gave him this idea is somebody from the province, that he should go the Matiba way. But this is not the right way at this time. Because what the DP is doing is trying to remain relevant. Because he has been politically made seen by whatever the tactics going on. So if I were the DP, I would not have gone this way. I would have borrowed a leaf from the original Odinga, the Muzee. I would have resigned and formed my own political party. To become totally relevant. So this is not the way for the DP to go right now. He should come out openly and say, I want to be president and I'm going through this vehicle. Because this is not the normal way of politics in Kenya. It is a group called I normally call it the typewriter generation of politics. And that is the group that is bringing a lot of churches within the Jubilee thing. They belong to that old generation.
Okay.
So I'm challenging the young generation to come up with their own political party, the computer-minded generation, so that we may have an opportunity to take this country.
Thank you, John. Have a good day.
Now, come again.
Have a good day.
Yes, now, there's one thing. I would advise the DP to go and read an old Irish storybook. The Irish storybook is about an Irish traveler. The Irish traveler met an Irish farmer and the Irish traveler asked the farmer, which is the shortest way from here to Dublin? The farmer told him, if I were you, I would not have started from here. Okay, full stop. The other one is Mr. Kenyatta. There were 3 fat cows, very fat bulls, which were very, very friendly. They used to go to the pasture together. And there was a lion that always wanted to attack them. And they used to collectively repel that lion. So what the lion did, it called for the services of a rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
And the lion asked the rabbit, if you can manage to make those cows become enemies, I will never eat you. So what the rabbit did, it went and convinced one of the cows, and one of the cows became an enemy of the other two. It started going to the pastures alone. The lion managed to eat it.
Oh.
Then when the lion became hungry again, it went back to the rabbit and asked the rabbit, as I promised you, go back to the cows and make them enemies. So the rabbit went and made them enemies. They separated from each other. The lion managed to eat all of them. So to Jubilee and Mr. Kenyatta, the rabbit is in their courtyard.
Bottom line. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
That's a long two stories for both sides of the Jubilee coalition to consider. He says the best thing for Ruto to do is step out now. Form your KPU.
That, from what we have seen, the only person who has managed to pull that particular stunt successfully is Raila Odinga. Nobody else has. You leave this, join the other, and you have your own setup. It usually doesn't work. Right now, with the politics that we have in this country, if you look at it carefully and if you understand it, if you leave, that space will be occupied sooner than you can blink. The understanding that we have of politics...
The space where? The space in the public discourse or the space in the
that
government?
Political position that you have. See, there are those who think that when you leave, you gain more mileage, you gain more momentum, you gain more supporters. It's a gamble. There's no guarantee.
It's a big one. It's a big gamble.
There's no guarantee. None whatsoever. And if you look at the support...
But also maybe it depends on what you have done, the kind of momentum that you're starting with. If you just look recently, when Martha Karua left the Kibaki administration, right? At that point where she came out and she was saying, I'm feeling frustrated with the fight against corruption and the way it's going, and she left, it was clear that she was going now to venture into her own in politics. And she got into NARC Kenya. She positioned herself to vie for the 2013 presidential election. We saw how that went. You can say that when she left, she basically took a dip and then now started rising again and positioning herself as the female presidential candidate in the first election after 2010 is something. However,
the reality.
That reality could be different. Yes. If you look at the point when the others were leaving government, other people leave government to go and form political parties. Like if we just go back to that Jaramogi time, when he was leaving, it was clear he had already gathered the momentum, and it was clear that Jaramogi is not welcome in KANU.
Yes.
And he had already created that whole story. Himself had also created that whole narrative that, you know what, guys, I am being fought from within. He had gathered his own troops. So when he stepped out, he was not stepping out alone.
He didn't step out alone at all.
So it was very clear. He had built up that whole momentum of, you know what, we shall live, we shall live, we shall live. So when he left...
That momentum was good.
It was good. Same thing I'm saying. Maybe Ruto has been able to build that momentum. That whole Tanga movement, there's already a clear, you can clearly see who is on Ruto's side and who's not.
And again...
Even when people call here, you can tell who's on Ruto's side and who's not. So he already has his people. So if he steps out, maybe he may have that momentum.
He most certainly does have his people. There's no question about it. But you step out and form your own party. What you've done is you've kicked yourself out of the party on whose ticket you were first elected.
Yep.
On whose foundation you were able to make what you have today.
Yes.
Right? So if you leave them, it's almost as if you're cutting off part of your foot and hope that you will walk in the same manner in which you were previously.
I think the fallacious on that argument is that the party made him, not the other way around.
He did make the party.
In this particular case, Ruto is part of the people who made the party. The party did not make Ruto. Jubilee
No.
Two things here.
Who is stronger than the other? Jubilee and Ruto.
No, I don't think you can make that. It's not a comparison that you would use to be able to explain the situation. To say that one made it or the other did
No,
not.
why I'm saying that is if we go with the argument that if you step out of Jubilee, you're stepping out of the Nyeri that fed you, the hand that feeds you, the one that built you. That's not the case.
No.
This particular case,
Eric,
he formed
It's not
Jubilee,
about where
so
it's
he
not
can-
it's not
he can
about where
step
he gets
out.
it's not about where he gets his political sustenance from as much as where he gets his political strength from. And this is what I'm saying.
It's
that in
not
this
Jubilee,
case,
it's him. It's his
as an
brand.
so as far as you're concerned, if he steps out on his own, he'll be absolutely fine.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes. Just like Uhuru Kenyatta stepped out of KANU and he was still a brand. It was the brand Uhuru. Ruto is the brand Ruto, not Jubilee.
actually, what you're actually saying is Jubilee is actually not even a brand.
Yeah. Jubilee is nothing. Ruto and Uhuru leave Jubilee. That thing is gone. He left UDM. Do you remember UDM? He left
In fact,
URP.
when you
Do
mentioned
you
it, I
remember
remembered.
URP?
But Eric, the point I was making is this. It's still a gamble. If you step out to form your own party, you're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And you're hoping that people will follow you. Now, the real test or the real proof of that particular pudding is let him then step out and see.
If it's as strong as he's saying that he actually is, then all right. Then if that's the case, then it would be nice to see how.
Let's see.
I'm saying there's certain leverage that you would have built on having used the party as a channel, because we all know, whether we want to run away, whether we want to admit it or not, people use these political parties as channels then to build leverage for themselves and as individuals. That is very clear. Now, to say that leverage has been built on a party, there's a certain use that you have for it. To move away from it and start afresh in these times, it would be difficult. It would be a very, very tall order.
These times, Ndu, are not different. They are not different from the time when Raila left LDP and went into ODM. It just becomes one into another. URP into Jubilee, TNA into Jubilee, KANU into TNA into Jubilee. One and the other. It is the
issue-
brand.
Eric has a point here, Ndu. The
But let's go
real,
to the
the
top
real
of the
issue
hour.
here.
We continue with this. Top of the hour,
Carry on.
coming to 8 o'clock. The conversation shall continue for slightly, and then we shall move into the plight of children. Today's proverb, C.T. Muga.
No matter how long a log stays in water, it doesn't become a crocodile.
So you can as well just step out of the water.
A leopard can't change its spots, really, can it?
No.
Yes. And a politician will be a politician.
And will be a politician.
Yes, they will be.
Every new day.
Yes.
Good morning. This is a Situation Room. It's now 8 o'clock.
All right, still an issue on my market escarpment this morning. In and outbound, it actually is becoming a little bit more crazy. I think now we're looking at almost 10 kilometers of traffic this morning, in and out. People have gotten out of Nairobi and unfortunately nowhere to go because now they're stuck in traffic. Hell of traffic is what it's being called this morning. It's a no-go zone. If you're headed out of the city, just know that that is what you're going to meet on the way. You're trying to head into the city this morning. That also is what you'll find if you're coming from that direction. And that's where the spotlight is this morning, just outskirts of Nairobi. These are the issues that we are facing. It is a Friday morning and everybody's trying to get out and in at the same time. Mombasa Road and Thika Road are actually not having so many problems today. And most streets within the city are actually looking good. We'll keep an eye on my Mahu and see how that looks in a short while. But for now, this is what you see. Any new information, don't hesitate to share with us. Spice FMKE is how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know so that we can spread the word.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room,
It's
we
2.5
have
minutes after 8. As we were going into the top of the hour,
Research-
City, I asked you to pause a thought that you had. You were talking about the reaction to what I was saying.
I was saying this, that our politics is essentially about personalities. People had political parties, and you'll talk about this ideology. No, the ideology is the leader of that
person.
party. That party is the leader that party has. It's not complicated. And I'm simply saying you have a point. If Ruto moves out, those who are supporting him are not supporting Jubilee, they're supporting him. So the test will be,
How many?
will stay with him because if he moves, the position of deputy president will also be. He will leave. That one will go with him.
He'll leave it with us.
Yes, exactly.
Like the people of Kenya.
So when he's no longer deputy president, I would like to see how many people would still be keen on supporting him and who, as we say, will die with him. That I would like to see. If there are such people and the numbers are something to speak about, then the force that Ruto has been claimed to be will actually be true. He will be a force to
He'll
reckon
be a
with.
force to reckon
Yes,
with.
exactly.
I'll give you an example of what happened in Nigeria. Atiku Abubakar has run in every election since 1984. Every
election.
single election Atiku Abubakar has run. At some point, he was vice president of Nigeria, and he had a following, huge following. When that particular administration came out of power, Atiku Abubakar ran for president of Nigeria. His cronies, nowhere, had disappeared. When he was in power as vice president, it would be seen that he had a large following. People were very interested in what he had to say and what he had to do because his proximity to the seat of power was, fantastic at best. I said, till today, Atiku Abubakar cannot see senator, House of Representatives, National Assembly.
Governor?
Can't even, no.
Okay.
He's the chairman of an international university in Nigeria. That's the best that he's been able to see because his proximity to the seat of power changed significantly. We almost also understand that cronies are human beings.
Yeah.
Cronies are human beings like you and I. There's something that they'll be able to benefit from you whilst you're close to that seat. They'll follow you for sure. Now, let your proximity change in distance. There will also change in terms of their alliance.
There'll be a shift.
Oh, for sure.
There'll be a huge shift in in who you're able to pull along with you.
Every election, you can count the votes he got on my appendages. It's just an example. And I think
Just tell him to give up.
I think
Send a message to Atiku Abubakar and tell him, you know what, the people of Nigeria think differently.
They seem to think you should follow a different career.
Yeah, follow a different career. This is
but
not
But
yours.
what am I saying? When he was vice president, it would seem that his following was huge.
He assumed
much
that everybody
so much
was...
so that it gave him the oomph to say, I'm actually going to run for president. These people, the way they look at the way they're supporting me, everything I say, they
cling
back
to
it up.
every word that I have.
They didn't
Everything I do,
distinguish-
they shout and follow me. So that has given me the impression that actually, you know what? I can do this thing on my
By the
own.
way, it doesn't end there and do. There'll
Left-
be people telling you.
Left PDP,
Saa tatu ya asubuhi.
left PDP, and went to ANC. All right, and told him ACP, sorry, and told himself that here within this party and with what I have to offer, these people are going to follow me. Whoa, he left, and he was on his own. Till
Duncan
today.
Nkejero, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Morning.
Well, how are you?
I'm fine. Actually, nowadays I'm watching you guys on YouTube rather than listening on the car.
It's a better experience, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a better experience. Now, I would actually want to tell Nduoko that the demographic in political arena in Africa are totally different. In Nigeria, it might be, let's say, between the northern side and I think, is it the southern side? In Kenya, it's totally different. And Eric, you are right. If I read another article about the time Moi was about to become president, and he was facing the same thing. But if Moi had a chance to create his own party back then, he would have come out of the government and formed his own party and stand alone. And it's what is it's the same thing that is happening right now. People forget that the political elite, let's say the views of the political elite are totally different to the people on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And people might be thinking that Ruto doesn't have a following. And you are right. Jubilee doesn't need, if it wasn't for Ruto, I don't think Uhuru would have formed Jubilee alone. That's my view.
And without Uhuru, Ruto would not have formed Jubilee as well, right?
Remember, Uhuru had tried to go and woo Musalia Mudavadi. You can remember akisema mashetani something, the spirits of something that had gotten into somebody else.
Mm.
Uhuru would have never formed a government with any alliance, because for him, he was standing, alikuwa anategemea the view that his father had already become a president. So that's the political mileage Uhuru had.
You think so? Remember, this is somebody who had run for president before, just 10 years earlier.
He had run.
Had been a deputy premier.
He had been a deputy prime minister. He had been the leader of official opposition. He was chairman of KANU.
Minister for Finance.
Eric, because
he can't.
Uhuru, no, it's called privilege. It's the class leverage that Uhuru he was brought into the political scene by Moi. Why it not for Moi bringing Uhuru? And it's the same thing Uhuru is trying to do for Gideon Moi.
Be that as it may, Duncan, I think what we are saying is by the time we were getting to 2011, 2012, Uhuru had already formed a brand, a political brand.
He wasn't a nobody.
He wasn't the Uhuru of the mid-90s.
And Erica, I'm not arguing with that. But remember, there was this article that went that said that there was this meeting that was held in State House, and there was Saitoti, there was Kibaki, and Kibaki was suggesting that somebody else becomes president. Saitoti was the ideal person before, yes?
I don't know what article you're referring to.
There was such an article at the Standard. I think it was on a Sunday. I'll try get it one day. Then I'll probably share.
So we are talking about the run up that time when the both Uhuru and Ruto had already formed a coalition. URP and TNA, they had already formed a coalition, and then there was talk of also them having a further coalition with Musalia Mudavadi, which did not last for long.
Yeah, which didn't last. But if you see, Uhuru has always been dependent to Ruto, to be honest. In terms of political mileage, Uhuru has always been trying to get the political mileage of Ruto, because Ruto had the numbers. Even if right now he's
I respect your opinion.
Remember,
I do not agree with your opinion. I don't know, CT, do you agree with that?
I disagree completely.
Okay. George, Duncan, thank you very much for calling. Let's hear from George in Mombasa. George, good morning.
Morning to you. How are you?
We're fine, thank you.
Okay, I want to contribute from this debate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's something that is happening in our country at the moment, but very few people seem to be seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
We need a revamped opposition.
Mm-hmm.
Right after the handshake till now, the opposition is simply lifting. We don't have an opposition at the moment in the country. Now, the problem again that we have, all we have in our country are politicians. We do not have statesmen. We do not have a Jaramogi in the country at the moment. If we had the Jaramogi material that we had in 1966 or 67 and 68, we would be having a serious talk now of an opposition outfit, a new national opposition outfit being in the offing. But what we have now, everybody else now wants to troop back to the government, as we can all see at the moment. If the DP had a little of what Jaramogi Oginga had in Kenya, he would now be talking about building a credible opposition in the country. Men like Musalia Mudavadi or somebody like Wetangula would now be joining William Ruto in creating a vibrant opposition, because it is all clear that Ruto's chances of getting to the presidency are getting slim at the moment. Why not create a good opposition?
Okay. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. But you're also saying that we lack that kind of leaders with gravitas like the Jaramogi had in the 60s.
Yeah, all we have are politicians.
Okay,
Not-
George. Thank you.
Yeah.
We stay in Mombasa and speak to Esther. Good morning, Esther.
Good morning. How are you? And Timuga, he is back.
City.
I receive your greetings with gratitude. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Shikamo.
Marahaba, hujambo.
Jambo kabisa. I've been missing the airtime of 7 because of many other factors, but I will start listening from 6.
Okay.
Very good.
So can I comment on something on the one?
Please.
City Muga has lived more than us to know how the politics of this country goes. I've also had the lady there say exactly the same, especially when leaders are being formed in this nation. My point is, from a layman's point, that is the disclaimer I want to make. If I'm not a supporter of any of the parties, I've never been, but we follow what the decisions we make. So we want change as a country. We want to see change. That is the notion that comes in every other time that there's an election year. Tutaki hii, tumechoka, tunataka 1, 2, 3. Today, I have had the Deputy President always say, I act on delegation from my boss. That is a statement he likes to say.
Yes.
Then I come and wonder, today, whether it's Tanga, whether it's Jubilee, because if he's out and if the president is out, like you rightly said, Eric, that party will come out, we will form another party called the Kitu Fulani. Yes. But at the end of the day, Kitu Fulani Alliance. But my point here is a short point. We should not have different thoughts. Who has denied him, the person in question, to have a different move? Maybe he has seen something, and what he requires to do is to sit with the people in now the leading party to come and bring his thoughts together and see, do we even know if he wants to run for the presidency? What if he comes and says he doesn't want to run for the presidency? The rest of let me tell you, the politicians of this place, even today, if I was in that position, there is something Sitimuga said, testing the waters. Maybe an test the waters on manze wase wata react VP. We had what Atwoli said. I'm not a politician. I had what Atwoli said. I had another man called Manyara say, this man cannot ascend to power because he has not aligned himself. Who said he needs to align himself? Who says he cannot think differently as a human being and as a leader? Because I have heard Eric say he has had a history of learning politics. Is it Jubilee really who made him? Or he made himself using the other people who think differently like him? Or they are within the party and they are saying, hatupendi hii. But you see, since we are in this situation, how do I tell my boss, Bana, that hii njia tunachukua si right? Because already nishaonekana mimi ndio rebellious. Who said he's rebellious? You see, now those are the facts that me I'm thinking as a layman. And at the end of the day, us as wananchi, we will vote according to the euphoria. Hakuna mtu so the change, we should stop saying the change now. But he's not the change even. Because we are not even clear who it is. Because you said they will align themselves within that time. Now they are doing this checking, darubini yani, kitu kama hiyo. So the waters have been distorted kiasi. And let me tell you, when I see them together with the president, I always look because I'm trying to see, huyu ndio ule mtu rebellious. That's the picture painted now to us as Kenyans as we look at the screen. Huyu hawako pamoja na president. I tend to differ because until I see something tangible, and like now we should
tangible
be,
is what?
Tangible is maendeleo. Big 5, big 4. Is it big 4? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. It's 16 minutes after 8 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. The conversation continues. We're going to switch gears a little bit after taking a look at weather. Good morning.
let's look at weather this morning in Nairobi. We're looking at clear skies, highs of 23 today, a chance of showers later on in the afternoon. Nyeri today at 13 degrees, mostly cloudy conditions, highs of 23. Nakuru is going to be a wet afternoon with highs of 23 and lows of 13. The rain will continue into thunderstorms, highs of 20 and lows of 12 in Eldoret. And in Kisumu, again, a wet afternoon with highs of 26 and lows of 18. Kakamega will go into thunderstorms later, highs of 23 and lows of 15. Malindi with partly cloudy conditions at 26 right now, highs of 28 and lows of 25. Mombasa, highs of 29 and lows of 24. Taking a look then into Kampala, where thunderstorms are slated for the afternoon, highs of 24 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam is partly cloudy at the moment, highs of 31 and lows of 22, and those conditions will continue through most parts of the day. Johannesburg is still foggy at 2 degrees. We'll see highs of 13 and lows of -2 today. And for now, Lagos, clear skies at 23, highs of 28 and lows of 22.
It's Friday, the 19th day of June 2020. Thank you very much for choosing to tune in to 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 Mombasa, Kisumu 102.5, Nakuru 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 Nyeri, 97.7 Malindi, or wherever you are watching us on www.spicefm.co.ke or Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, SpiceFMKE, where we live stream this show. Duncan in Kajero is saying nowadays he prefers to actually watch us on YouTube, the live stream, which is a better experience for him. Now, let's have a conversation that we must have. So, last week, Kenya joined other African countries in celebrating a week-long build-up to the Day of the African Child, which was commemorated on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Mm-hmm. Yes, it was Tuesday. The theme this year was children getting better access. The theme around children getting better access to justice and the justice system. And then we've started conversations, and we're also seeing the information that's coming out in commemoration also of the same celebrations. The number of teen pregnancies or just adolescents who have presented with pregnancy at health facilities and recorded at health facilities has risen. There was controversial statistics that was released by a children's officer in Machakos, and these statistics have basically just been questioned left, right, and center. The source, or even the how have you verified this kind of information, saying close to 4,000 children have become pregnant in just the 3 months since schools were closed because of COVID-19. These have been questioned. However, nobody is saying that no, this does not happen. The fact of the matter is that there is a lot of underage pregnancy in our country. Many of these are caused by various factors, including abuse of children. So let's have that conversation, right? We started it yesterday. We continue with this conversation today. What's the nation saying?
Well, there's a lot. Questions are, let's talk about rape. And to say that, has it been likened to that, where you have quite a number of children? And what we're going to say is anybody who's under the age of 18 in Kenya, as per law, is regarded as a child. Okay? So if these children are pregnant, obviously, they then had sexual relations with somebody. And to have the discussion is that they're saying, look, it's only a sick society that remains silent as it wallows in the shame of 8-year-old girls being defiled by their own fathers, thousands of pregnant teenage victims of sexual assault, and countless tales of violation. And every region apparently has its share. Kisii County has recorded 46 defilement cases since March. In Kibra, a 47-year-old man was arrested this week after he sexually attacked his neighbor's 7-year-old son. The same man raped the young boy's 5-year-old sister in Kaptembwa in Nakuru County. 14-year-old Winnie Chirono is 7 months pregnant after being defiled by her neighbor. 3,964 cumulative visits by teenagers to antenatal clinics in one county between March and May, and 200 shillings is the amount demanded by police to process a rape case. So this is what we're looking at. But now, I know quite a number of issues here. This is the thing. It's kind of like an onion when you're looking at this, because there's so many layers to this. There is the fact that, like I said yesterday, if these numbers are erroneous coming out of Machakos County, it's all right. Divide that number by 4, and let's say there are 1,000 cases. Okay, and let's even call some of them repeat cases because they're constantly going to the antenatal clinic. If it's at the ages at which we're looking at that, we're saying, number one, it's a problem because they're too young. Number two, we've also seen that from statistics, that the way they've shown us that more likely than not, these young girls are being impregnated by people who are, number one, significantly older than them, a member of their family, or they've been attacked, sexually abused and attacked in that manner, and one of those being rape, and that is how they ended up pregnant. The numbers or the reasons or the issues behind that is what we need to be looking at and saying, how are we going to stop this from happening? And unfortunately, it is not just, the numbers came out of Machakos and they were alarming. But unfortunately, this thing is widespread. It is across the country. From east to west, north to south, it's happening everywhere. And the fact remains that a lot of parents, number one, are not able to talk to security officials about this because they feel that they would be compromised. There's a lot of stigma attached to this. The young girls, in most cases, do not want to say who it is that may have gotten them pregnant, or if it was an issue of rape or attack, they do not want to talk about it because they're scared of what would happen to them. Are there issues that we should be discussing? Are there things that we should be looking at? For sure. We talk about a justice system which needs to take care of its children. It needs to be addressed. And I think for too long it's been swept under the carpet and not being dealt with in the manner in which it needs to be dealt with. And I think the conversations need to continue. Because like I said, there's so much. There's the pregnancy issue, but then there's also, the sexual abuse and violence issue. And then there's the issue of boys also being attacked, which for too long also has been ignored. Because if we're looking at children, it encompasses both genders. And it's a problem. We're going to have adults in society who are not going to be functioning because of things that are happening when they're children.
It's there are very many sides to approaching this story, and many of them are ending up with one thing. The thing is about protection of children in whatever way, shape or form. Because if we are talking about children being abused by their relatives, being abused by a neighbor, being abused by somebody that they come into contact with, either a teacher, a police officer, somebody in the community that's abusing children, the community cannot just be sitting and saying that they are not aware. So the community is aware. The community knows that these things are happening. Is it that the community is sanctioning these things to happen? Are we getting to a point where we are saying that, this rising cases of abuse, and we have not had, loud noises coming from the ground, from the community saying, no, we need to address this? Is it that the community has gotten to a point of sanctioning? But also, let's look at all the causes of how somebody at the age of 18 or 16 would end up being pregnant.
Well,
there's the abuse side, there's the side where
there's consensual.
There's consensual. There are those sides where now they traditionally, and we have been trying to fight the custom of underage marriage, children just being married off by their parents. All these factors have to be considered.
In answer to your question, I do. And at the risk of sounding controversial, it is assent. The moment a community is not speaking up about something that is happening, it's akin to saying then it's all right and it is something that we have accepted. It's either that you don't know that it is going on, and if it is happening with the rampant nature that we see going on here, it is impossible, like you've said, that people do not know that it is happening. Now, if they're not speaking up about it and demanding that something can be done, it's almost as if to say that it's something that we know that happens, but we really can't do anything about it, so we just kind of accept it as a way of life. We're going to hear a story like this, it's going to pop up
the cases
maybe tomorrow,
that have been reported,
and then, we let it be.
Do we find the reporting to be in great abundance in urban areas, or is it more in rural areas, or is it balanced out?
It's interesting because in the last 8 months, this reporting has been balanced. You'll find that you'll have cases in the urban centers like Nairobi, but then you'll also find that in the rural areas, in the villages, you will find that such have been reported. A 14-year-old is pregnant in a village somewhere in Kisumu.
So
for example,
is it that the reporting is now more vibrant, or is it that the number of abuse cases and defilement has increased?
It is both, CT, because what is being reported still does not cover the numbers of what is happening.
But the reporting has increased.
The reporting has increased because a little bit more noise, a little bit more agitation has happened in terms of letting people know what is really going on. But of course, it doesn't cover the actual number of what is really happening. So the answer to that is that both. The cases have increased, the reporting is more vibrant, but still the reporting doesn't cover. I don't think it would be possible to cover every single story or every single incident of this that goes on.
Think, for instance, of the word abuse, okay? Let's juxtapose it with what, in a traditional sense for many African communities, is called discipline.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line? I'm not talking about defilement. I'm just talking about
Abuse. Basically like corporal punishment.
Yes. Is it abuse? Remember, it was banned in our schools.
The reason why it was banned is because there were certain individuals who took this thing to another level, whereby now it moved beyond teaching a lesson and it went to where now you are causing harm to this child or to this individual. You're inflicting harm upon this person. And the intent is not to teach a lesson. The intent is to harm. And that is what you can see clearly. When children would show up with broken limbs, children are bleeding. It was severe. And that was clear that you're not teaching, you're not disciplining here. You're hurting.
I think you have asked the question, where do you draw the line, right? Between disciplining a child and abusing a child physically. When there's grievous physical bodily harm, clearly you've crossed the line somewhere. And the point where you cross the line is your intention. If you wanted to discipline a child, you do not need to beat a child for 15 minutes, continuously fucking them for them to get the point. When you go to that extent, then you've already crossed the line and you're moving towards the sphere of you are abusing this child physically. Now, again, the other question that you asked earlier, I think in terms of, are we seeing an increase in the number of reported cases, or are we seeing an increase in the number of cases? And I agree with what Ndu was saying. I think it's both. And just like previously you've told us, because of population increase, you expect a number of things to also increase. And also because of access to information and technological advancements, you also expect information to also be more readily available from across various parts of the country. So it's both. However, there's the issue of, yes, there is abuse going on in our communities.
There's an increase.
There's an increase in this. And also, there is also a point where, with all those advancements, even in policing, you're not seeing the same kind of action happening in terms of punishing or fighting the perpetrators of this, or a conversation towards stopping this increase, reducing the increase. And I think that's where the disconnect starts coming in. When you hear that cases have been reported to authorities, and the authorities, the kind of action that has been taken by the authorities is not action that will stop further perpetration, then you get to a point where we have a disconnect. And probably that answered the other question that I was asking. What is it that the community is now accepting, or is it that the community is also at some level feeling defeated?
You know, when you talk about community, there's often a discussion that tends to distinguish between what happens within the urban centers and what happens in the rural areas, presuming that there is a difference, or the thing behind it is different. The bulk of the people who populate the urban centers have a very serious connection and background to the rural areas. Like the traffic in Maimahiu. Where are people going? On weekends, before COVID, where do people go? Because there's a lot of traffic out of town. It's even clearer in December. That connection can only come about if in an earlier time you spent a lot of time in the rural areas, meaning you are born there, you went to school there, so you have a connection. What also that means is that you're thinking and your general outlook towards life will have been greatly influenced by the culture of the places you come from. So being in town is a detail.
Being in town at some point was a necessity in order for you to get what it is that you needed to maintain a certain livelihood.
Yes, but do you actually leave behind any of the traits that you actually acquired when you were young?
No, it's hard. It's hard to have done so. Even now, you remember things that your parents taught you, or the ways in which they asked you to live your life. Those are not some things that you would leave behind. A culture, a tradition that you grew up with, it is likely to stay with you for some time. But I think what we do see now is that we see a proliferation of almost a bastardization of this culture and this upbringing that we knew to be a certain way. Because by the time you see some of the things that we see, some of the horror stories that we read that we cannot even, speak of, that result in these pregnancies that we're talking about today, that result in these cases of abuse, CT, is a wayward thinking aside from that culture or tradition in which you were brought up in.
Deviation, as they call it.
Total deviation from that. Total deviation from that. Because somebody who is 50 years old, somebody who's 50 years old today, was brought up in a time whereby a lot of the things that we see were not happening. But this is the same 50-year-old who is abusing these girls today. So something along the line has changed.
You see, you're talking about today.
Is it that it was not happening? Oh, maybe it was happening in their time.
In a different way?
Yes, in a different way.
Yes.
It was called marriage. It was culturally accepted.
Not for a 5-year-old, not to rape a 7-year-old boy, and then a week later rape his younger sister who is 5.
No.
This is what I'm saying. Exactly. This is what I'm saying. You see? Yeah. But he's a 50-year-old man who grew up in a time where things like this were not happening. So that is my question. Kind of akin to what you were asking, Eric, is that over time things have changed, and the result of which these are the numbers and issues that we are dealing with today, right? So a system that needs to take all of this into consideration is what is non-existent.
True. Take a pause, City. We need to look at traffic, what's happening on the roads, and then this conversation continues. I mean, we've got to ask all the difficult questions, look at all the difficult angles. This is a conversation that must be had. And the Nation headline today is up. It says, let's talk about rape. Right? 26 minutes to 9 o'clock. Good morning.
All right, so that things have changed. Traffic on Mombasa Road is bumper to bumper, absolute madness, and moving at a snail's pace from the JKIA stretch towards Cabanas. It has slowed down completely. So if you didn't get out before now, sorry, this is where we are now. Now, Thika Road outbound and inbound today is crazy. And like we said, there's a mass exodus outside of the city today. It'll be interesting to see how these folks are going to get out and be back Monday morning, but we know it happens. All right, and then we're still keeping an eye on the Maimahiu escarpment because there's quite some traffic there, and it is for kilometers in what is being held up. There's a roadblock there, and every single vehicle is being checked. I don't know what's happening, but people are moving anyway. It's going to take some time to get out of that. All right, that's what the traffic situation looks like this Friday morning. Let us know what you see. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. It's bound to be crazy, guys. Another hour or so. Be patient. You'll get out eventually, but make sure that you're careful at the same time.
In about half an hour, we will speak with the CECM, that's the County Executive Committee member for Health and Emergencies in Machakos County. We want to hear what the Health Ministry of Machakos is doing, how it has received the information, how it's processing this data that is coming out of the health system in Machakos. So the Minister for Health for Machakos County will join us. We'll take a look at this conversation and see what else is happening. We are asking ourselves, what's wrong? What's going down? And I think I want to feel a bit more comfortable having this conversation by separating a couple of issues. One, and I started by intimating towards that, there is abuse. Children who are abused by older people with a full intention of being abused, basically. Not consensual at all in any way.
Essentially, you're talking about perverts. But
perverts, yes.
Deviants.
Those ones. Let's use the word rape in that particular case. There are also very many cases where we have today teenagers who are pregnant, but they were not abused. Right? Our listener in Mombasa called us the other day and was saying, look, what's happening now with the children at home? They're just moving around and they're teens, and you know what happens when teenagers have freedom. That's one. Also, let's look at that age bracket. And we've talked about it. Even the judiciary is raising the issues with the Sexual Offences Act and the mandatory minimum sentencing. Because if it is people within that age bracket, so what are we talking about? So there is that. Legally, there is defilement or there is abuse, but practically, it is actually teenagers who have engaged in sex. They have fallen pregnant. And let's even stretch it a bit. Don't expect that it's just going to end with 18. If you think about it, an 18-year-old and somebody who's just left high school the other day, or still in high school but they were older, 19, 20, or they've gone into college, they're still within the same age bracket. So you'll find that there's consensual sex that has led into these pregnancies. That is a conversation that we must have on how to ensure that we reduce these numbers. But then there's the other conversation of the perverts. The people who are abusing our children.
I'm going to add something else
girls.
in there for that, Eric. And this is something that's actually confusing a lot of practitioners right now. It is very tricky. But you also have what you want to call, from the point of view of both of these individuals, consensual sex that is happening between teenagers and much older people with the promise of a reward. At that point, in the mind, it is consensual. According to the law, it is not. Because this person is under a certain age. But this girl would have agreed to have sex with this older person because of what she's going to get. And look, it sounds ridiculous, but yeah, a packet of chips. She's going to get a packet of chips. She's going to get 20 shillings to be able to do something. She has the promise of going to the salon and getting her hair done. She will have sex with this individual over and over and over again because of what she's going to get out of it. According to the law, this man has broken the law.
This is
many
transactional
times.
sex.
Okay? But according to these two individuals, it's consensual. She didn't refuse. I did not force her. In fact, on some occasions, she would come to my home knowing, right, that there was something that she was going to get at the end of the day. So according to these two individuals, it's consensual. According to the law, it's anything but that.
True.
So that's another part that we need to put into this. She may not know what she's doing because she doesn't have another way of getting this.
She thinks she knows what she's doing.
Yes. Yeah.
But she actually
have
doesn't
the
wherewithal to understand the
consequences,
larger picture.
the larger picture of
the
this.
bigger impact. There's also the other one where it's actually the parents who are encouraging this transaction to take place, like in the coastal strip. We've seen very many reports of parents actually sending off their children to go and engage in sex.
They
with
marry
sex
off their
tourists.
children. They do.
Yep, sex tourism at the coast.
But you know, if you look at even many African communities, the idea of a young girl, the term that was often used was nubile. Okay? The moment when puberty sets in, 13, 14, for many African men, they're fair game. Simply because they are developing. What many of them don't understand, they're not fully developed. They are developing.
Yep.
And are we discussing what people do or the mindset they have that leads them to doing what they do? Because having the law is all good and well.
Yep.
And that's why I brought in the issue of the culture that people come with and bring those cultures into town. So long as people think in a certain way, and so long as they personally believe that there's nothing wrong with it, you will have the law. All they do is avoid the law, but as far as they're concerned, it is okay.
It's okay.
And then there's something very tragic about the debut period when children begin to have sex. we may be looking at a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old as a really small child. And for all you know, that person has had an understanding and an experience of sex from an age that, at least for me mentally, it would be unimaginable. But there it is.
Yeah.
So by the time they're 14, it's not even an issue.
They're sexually mature.
Yes, as far as they're concerned.
In their mind.
And that is why, in medical terms, they're called mature minors. Should such a person who's already had sex, even if they're underage, even if they've had a child, they're called mature minors. And you then have this the status of an honorary adult.
For some time.
For purposes of handling your cases, you are a mature minor. And that, as I said, you have a state, you're considered an honorary adult. You are not an adult by any stage. And you have to understand this further. We talk about age. Remember, there were periods when adulthood began at 21, and officially and legally it was. Well, countries have been bringing it down. There's some who brought it to 16 and so forth. But the truth of the matter is this. The frontal cortex, this part of the brain that actually helps with the decision-making process, and that thing fully matures at probably at the age of 22 or 21. Not even 17, 18. So somebody could be intelligent, and we sometimes mistake intelligence
for maturity.
Yes. Maturity comes in when that is fully developed. That's when maturity comes in, because apart from simply understanding what is before you, you have the capacity to understand a broader perspective and to make a decision based on all these issues.
You can contextualize things.
You can. Your mind actually can. Yes.
So when we talk about, when you see all these things and the trends that happen, and it's not just the issue of pregnancies. Pregnancy is actually an indicator that sex is happening. Abuse. There's drug abuse and drug and substance abuse, which is also on the rise among the same age group in the community. And it's one, you can say one is contributing to the other, right? Why is it that we don't get that kind of huge conversation happening in churches, social gatherings, in parents groups, in community? Why do we get to that point? Is it because we've gotten to a point where we've normalized
stigma?
You don't want to discuss it because you don't want,
or it's accepted that it happens so much.
We are running away from it.
I think you're running away from it because you don't look at it as a problem that is communal. You look at it as an individual problem.
It is so and so's
you
children.
Reflect, yes, and how that will present you as, because if it happens to your child, then you have this understanding you'll be seen as an errant parent.
Yeah.
You'll be seen
You're
as
a failure. I mean,
yes,
how do you bring up children?
And then, given our Christian backgrounds, there will be Christian morality that also comes in. Now, it further helps to raise the issue of stigma, because now it stops being an issue that could be resolved. It becomes a moral issue.
It does. And if we want to move this conversation then towards what is actually being done in terms of the system, in terms of justice, in terms of now how should these issues be handled? I mean, soon we're going to talk to folks in Machakos, but then what happens when you're looking at a problem now and then how to deal with it? Okay. Is there looking at the stories that, the nation has highlighted today, one of the ladies said very clearly, it was her daughter that was abused and is currently pregnant. But what did she say? When they asked the people of this same community that were saying, something has obviously happened, and they're asking, how can we help? They said, take this case to the police. And she said, sina uwezo. Those were her words. Because she felt that in order for her to do this, to report this case, there was a certain amount of power she needed to have, either a certain amount of money she needed to have, or some kind of influence that she needed to wield to be able to have this case heard for her. She didn't do anything about it.
So it's a non-responsive justice system.
There you go. That's it. For you to get to the point, for people to get to the point where they feel, even if I go and report this thing, nothing is actually going to be done, or by the time they get up to it, I'm going to have to pay some money.
Well, I'll be harassed so much, I'll forget,
or I'll say, why did I even bother doing this thing in the first place? Imagine somebody whose community is the one who has to convince her to go and take this case of which her child has been defiled to the police. It is not until her second child is defiled by the same man that they say, no, we are not going to leave this one to go. We will go with you. Take another case in a different part of the country where somebody is trying to get by with 100 shillings to eat. And you take a case of the defilement of your child to the police station and they tell you, okay, 200 shillings. Don't you think that by the time you go home, you will think to yourself, 200 shillings, would I rather not buy food for my children and pray to God that my child heals from this? We raise this child and move on, than me looking for the 200 shillings to take it to the police to now start opening a case file about what has happened to my child.
You brought in the discussion of how the general public perceives not just the justice system, but also the security system. People feel that if you do not have the means, or if you don't amount to someone of some reasonable importance, you cannot take your case. And even if you do, it will not, no attention will be paid to it.
You must be influential for anything to happen.
Yes.
In your favor. Anything. That's the perception. When somebody says, sina uwezo, you clearly, she's in pain. It's not that she's sat there and accepted that.
No. It's not that she doesn't want to do something.
You, my child, you deserved it. No, absolutely not. This is a parent, and a parent will definitely feel it when they see that their child has been impregnated by some, and they know. And they know
this person. They're seeing this person walking about every day. Right?
They know. So they obviously feel it. But then they feel, all right.
What do I do?
What nitafanya nini? If I take this case to the local police, chief police, this man will walk. And then he'll come back, and maybe I'll even face severe repercussions because of reporting. It's going to get worse. We saw the child who ran away from home in Baringo. It was reported in yesterday's paper. Child goes, parents go to the police station. Police, they're accusing a police officer of having defiled this child.
Police officer threatens.
Police officer threatens. Girl takes off. What do you think the parents are going through? They're feeling even worse. So it's about a system here, that a system that is not geared towards not just addressing the plight of children, but the plight of the people. Because it's not about the children. The people who are reporting here are parents as well. But the parents are just being pushed back.
What we're discussing is actually part of a much bigger problem that we actually have in this country. Because when you have a justice system, or when you have a police system that people mistrust, then the one thing that the police system is guaranteed of is very little cooperation. Even when there are issues. Because when your fear of the police is because you think they are likely to cause you more harm
than good.
Yes. Now, or the thugs who are not the perpetrators, the normal perpetrators of crime, that isn't really a good position to be in.
No.
And then when people know that justice is something you can pay for, then what you've done is you've brought about impunity that probably didn't exist, because someone knows even if I do this, so long as I'm in a position to pay my way out of it, I will pay my way out of it.
Utadu.
Yes.
The Utadu mentality, it's a Kenyan-wide mentality. Because we are talking about even the perpetrator himself knowing I can buy my way out.
They know.
Well, look at this.
And the perpetrator did not wake up choosing to be saying that I'm going to be a perpetrator next year. This is something that they have carried in the community for a while, knowing that if I have influence, I can buy my way.
Even without influence, knowing very well that the first time where these people tried to report something and they actually did not succeed. We have this example right here. The same almost 50-year-old man rapes a 7-year-old boy. Nothing is done about it. The next 2 weeks, rapes his younger sister. Why do you think he did that?
He knows he can get away with it.
There you go.
It's just to show.
There you go.
To show that I can get away with it. 10 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We're having this conversation that must be had. And also shortly we'll ask you to join in and contribute to this debate.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
So the problem, one part of the problem is the system. There's the other part of the problem as well, the community and the society. Because I still go back into that part of the society. This 50-year-old man, yes, the police have not taken any action against him, but the community has also done nothing. He walks around, he meets with other people, probably he goes to church, maybe he's even a chairman of a Harambee this weekend. Okay, there are no more Harambes with the COVID-19. Maybe he's, contributing to this and the other in the community.
May even be a church elder.
He's a church elder, and everybody knows what this man is doing, and nobody is raising a finger.
The thing that comes to mind as you're saying this, Eric, is how this is not just a breakdown of societal norms. It is a breakdown of cultural norms. Because the one thing that we keep talking about when we talk about the African culture is the communal way in which things are done.
Yeah.
Clearly, this isn't the case.
Yeah. This went out of the window a long time ago.
Because such a case would not have been tolerated in any society.
And this is where now that breakdown, they're trying to disrupt the communal way of doing things, the traditional way of doing things has really had an impact in our society. Because this is it. Ordinarily, there would have been a very clear way of reporting this and this issue being addressed. There are people whose responsibility would have been to make sure that they address this issue. They cannot run away from it. The wazers of that kijiji, if it's reported, the wazir cannot bury it. They cannot sweep it under the carpet. They must address it. Nowadays, you go to wazers and the wazers can actually just sit down and decide, well, forget this case.
It is actually your problem now.
It's actually your problem.
Yes.
Exactly.
We saw the same case when a couple of years back, when there was a similar issue taken to Wazayas, and Wazayas decided, you know what, let's hii shida tutatue kinyumbani. A girl has been impregnated by an older person, and it was said tutatue kinyumbani, and it was unacceptable. Because that kutatua kinyumbani was saying that we're basically allowing this man to walk free without any kind of punishment. And it was rejected. That case had to go to court, to proper court. But you see, this is now nowadays the wazir, we are trying to mix the new wazir and the traditional wazir. And
but also, in many African traditions, such a case, all they did was they fined you. There was no censure. You are fined.
Yeah.
You pay some goats, you pay this. But that was it.
And also you're made to marry that girl.
There you go.
But that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
You were made to marry her and then care for her. And now in this case, it was not just marry her because you wanted to, I don't know, kind of like give some kind of morality to this pregnancy. But what it was that essentially you were going to take care of her.
Yep.
Because what happens is that this girl, she's of this age and she's being taken care of by her parents. Now, if what you're going to do is adult her by impregnating her, then take care of her.
Take care of her.
That was the notion behind all of this. That let's have a conversation. Since you decided to skip all of this, where she would be taken care of, sent to school, etc., whatever the case may be, and you've then essentially made her a mother, then now you carry the responsibility that her parents would otherwise have carried. Culturally, that's what there was
also the other intended consequence of coming and also becoming a deterrent. Especially in cases of abuse where it was very clear that this is what you've done. You've gone against the cultural norms. You've abused a boy, for instance. So you'd be punished and it would be public. And so there's that whole element of shame that also comes with it.
Yes.
That everybody in the community knows this is the person who did this to that person. So that shame as well, and the shaming side of the society helped to be as a deterrent.
And people often moved from that particular community.
Yep.
Because that shame followed your children. It followed your family in short.
Yes.
Yes. And that was something that people could not endure. But remember also that the issue of marrying a girl, if you had impregnated her, was not just with somebody who was older. Even if you are a younger man.
Yes.
And the girl was pregnant and you're responsible.
Even if you're age mates.
Yes, that's why you have acquired a wife.
Oh, yeah. Really quickly. And then your parents had to take on the responsibility.
Yes.
But it's interesting because then it
Which also is another deterrent.
Big because
the boy's parents are the ones who are made to pay dowry. They're made to take care of the new girl in the family with the newborn baby. So as a deterrent as well, you keep telling your boys, please
Please.
Don't
I
even
do not
try
want you
it.
to bring me.
Don't bring
A
me
grandchild.
a grandchild.
Grandchild,
We're
yeah.
not ready. I'll tell you when the grandchild time has come about, but it is surely not now.
Yep.
But I do think that there is a deviance in society, and I think that that has happened over time. I think that what we are seeing now, with the advent of so many things, with the movement of population
Yeah.
and the increase of technology, we're bound to see things like this. However, as these things changed, the system also needed to evolve to take care of this change.
this, and
and
that's where
that
the
is what has
failures-
not happened.
Do the question
Rebecca
that
is calling from Nairobi
Please.
City. Let's hear from
Yes.
Rebecca. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Mr. Matis. Morning, Mwalimu. And morning, Ms. Ndu.
Good morning.
Morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for this conversation. Ndu, I agree with you. This is an onion. But there's an element that I wish you guys would cover. Why don't you talk about sex education in the curriculum? Because even as we're talking about the justice system, the leadership, the community, these young kids, they need to be empowered. And that can only happen if people actually talk about this openly. Don't demystify the whole sexual act. You know, teach it in school. This is not about religion. It's not about tradition. It's happening. Look at Europe, the countries that have sex education as a curriculum. How many kids get defiled? How many kids have pregnancies, you know?
Yeah.
It's going to happen. We are there. We cannot bury our heads in the sand and assume that these kids are not going to do the things that, you know. I just found out the other day that my kids know about sex, and I'm here thinking I'm going to have
How
that
old
talk
are
with
they?
them. My son is 12 and my daughter is 10. They know everything,
Yep.
you know, and I'm here thinking I'm going to have that nice talk with them, and they've already gotten the marking scheme out there.
When are you
So why
planning
don't we
to have this talk with them? At what age?
It's not one of those things that you sit down and you say, today I'm going to talk about sex. No. It's beat by beat by beat, you know?
Yeah.
Because you can't shock the system and tell them, you know, this is how kids are made on one day. You decide, okay, today is Saturday, we're talking about sex. No. It's step by step.
But you want this to be introduced in schools, where we are saying tomorrow at the
lesson at
second
11 o'clock.
lesson we're talking about sex, which is something that you're finding difficult to do at home.
There's going to be a curriculum about it, and parents they're doing what is this new system they're calling, even the parents are doing homework.
CBC.
The parents, yes, this new system, mine are still doing it for, but the point is there's going to be literature out there, demystify it,
Yeah.
have the kids learn. Parents who, you know, my mom never talked to me about sex.
Yeah.
Goodness, I found my way through it, but this is not the age where you let your kids find your way through such things, you know.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're
But
coming to
thank
the
you
top
so
of the
much
hour.
for this
Asante sana, Rebecca. Have a good one. Coming to the top of the hour shortly, we'll be speaking with the Machakos County Minister for Health. He's Dr. Ansent Nzioki. Today's Proverb City.
Today's proverb, Eric, is no matter how long a log stays in water, it doesn't become a crocodile.
Kabisa. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
All right, let's see if it's changed. Yeah, not really. So Ngong Road seems to be the only road in Nairobi where there's no traffic today. There's a little bit of a hold-up on Mombasa Road, which is to be expected. Getting down then towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, it's not so terrible. Jogo Road behaving quite well today, and Thika Road also was behaving well until we saw the major build-up outbound today. The Maimahu escarpment issue continues to be one for now. It's likely to be there for a couple of hours this morning. It's bumper to bumper on certain parts of Mombasa Road and certain parts of Thika Road. Apart from that, it's not looking too terrible, guys. Hopefully that out-of-town issue gets sorted as quickly as possible. Spice FMKE, tell us if you see something else and we'll let everybody know and move as fast as we can today.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we
2
have
minutes after
CT
9. This
Muga.
is also Kenya's biggest conversation. We are having the conversation around, underage pregnancies, teen pregnancies, right? And alarming numbers, as we've seen. National statistics are showing 152,820 teenage girls have so far have become pregnant this year.
Say that number again.
152,820. All those just this year alone. Nairobi, Kakamega, Homa Bay are leading. Machakos is also doing badly. To address this issue, I've seen the governor of Machakos, Alfred Mutua, is calling on the president to basically form a task force and see how can we address this issue. But I think also the society needs to participate. We need to have a conversation. Whether it's formed by a task force or whatever.
Everything task force.
It will bring a conversation, CT. Because we must talk about it.
Eric,
if we call it a public hearing, call it a commission of whatever. But as long as we bring in a conversation that is public, it's open. That's the same way BBI go around the counties, have public hearings.
Public participation.
Everything. But let's talk about this. The church is quiet. Or is the church doing anything? I haven't heard. The community, the leadership of the community is quiet. What are we doing?
This is the thing. Because the act itself is something that is often done in private that will actually lead you to pregnancy, right? But these things are coming into the public. And in order to get a solution, it has to be public. It has to be opened up. It has to be in the open. It has to be for people to discuss it. Otherwise, we're going to continue having issues like this. What happens when a young boy, for example, at the age of 10 or 11, shows some kind of interest in sex? He's beaten. Is that not the case?
Yep.
He's beaten or he's told, keep quiet. Don't even talk about such things. It's not of your age yet. Go away. What's going to happen? That young boy is never going to open his mouth again about this under the roof of his parents until he gets out somewhere on his own. What did Rebecca say a few minutes ago? I figured it out on my own. I never had a conversation with my parents about it. I figured it out on my own. So what happens when he gets into a situation or whereby he feels he must force his way through, or he feels because he doesn't know enough, peer pressure is going to lean so heavily on him that he's going to make a decision that he would not have ordinarily made if he was armed with information, as opposed to having to deal from a place of fear. He didn't want to have to deal with discipline from his parents. Shut up, we don't discuss such things. But then you get into trouble later. How are you going to figure it out? And that's why we have a lot of problems that we have here. The stigmatization, where did it come about? Where did it come from? You want to trace it back? Exactly.
It's from
trace
us.
it back. Even the mother imagine, this act was not committed to her. Her as a person, her as an individual. It happened to her children. But she doesn't even want to talk about it. Doesn't want to discuss it. Why? It has come from conditioning.
Go back to certain basics. Look at the way we even describe sex. Look at the attitude we have towards sex. Look at the absence of openness that we have when discussing matters of sex. I'm talking about adults, not children.
Adults.
Tabia mbaya is what people often refer to sex. And now, you start by informing your children that sex ni tabia mbaya.
How do we all get here if you want to ask the question in the first place?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And why do you think that sex is always referred to as something that must be conducted in the dark? When that is the mindset that pervades literally the minds of any adult that you come across. So what do you think is going to happen? You think they're readily going to be discussing some of these problems that involve sex? Out of the question.
Of course not.
And it doesn't just stop at the individual. So you get to, and I'm just going to say here, for crying out loud, we have institutions in countries that are supposed to be dealing with these things. You have people who on a bright sunny day ordinarily would be confident about speak about the work that they're doing. But when it comes to something like this, nobody really wants to kind of discuss it. They ask the question,
to broach that topic.
CT, in your department, what have you been doing? Send us a report and we'll look at these issues. Come on.
We've been having, we promised that we're going to have a conversation with the County Executive Committee member for Health in Machakos County, Dr. Ansant Zioki. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Now, Daktari, we know that you're the Minister for Health in the county, and the issue of the teenage pregnancies is now the national conversation.
Yes.
We also know that your governor has reacted to what was presented initially as the numbers, and also now the steps to be taken going forward. Can you just tell us, from let's not even start having a debate of whether the 8,000 or 4,000 was a true figure or not. The thing is, the county government of Machakos has accepted that yes, there are numbers of underage teenage pregnancies.
Yes.
What is the cause of this? From where you see it, what leads us to where we are?
Yeah, thanks a lot. But I think it's important to set first the record straight, because if we don't do that, then we'll be discussing the wrong statistics. So it's true, teenage pregnancy is a big issue, which we must have a conversation as a society, and I'm happy we are already having that. So first I want to correct that notion that about the 4,000 cases. Fact of the matter is, one, of course I want to correct two things, because the notion has been created out there that about the numbers, but even to me, more importantly, is not even about the numbers, but the association people are trying to create that these teenage pregnancies are related to COVID-19. One, we need to appreciate that even for mature pregnant women, we encourage them to visit antenatal clinics at least 4 times during the pregnancy. For the teenage pregnancies, we encourage them to visit even more frequently, if possible even monthly. So those numbers which you are given, you cannot just pick January, February, March, April, May and add them up to get 4,000, but you must appreciate that a number of those are actually repeat visits, because we encourage the teenage girls who are pregnant to visit even monthly, because there are so many issues we need to tackle with them. Then the other issue we need to demystify is trying to associate these teenage, the current numbers with COVID-19. The obviously, and we know that all of us have women in our lives, whether mothers, sisters, aunts, and so on. Even for the mature women, when they are pregnant, they start visiting antenatal clinics from around the 4th month of pregnancy, 4th, 5th, 6th. So now trying to link these teenage pregnancies to COVID-19 and the fact that children are at home is not true, because schools were closed around mid-March. So any pregnancy which could have been contracted after schools closed is barely 2.5 months, which probably has not been manifested. So that's very clear. But now coming to the point is, it's true, teenage pregnancies are there, they are common, and is a societal problem, which we must address. We can't continue burying our heads in the sand. And this is an issue we need to have a real conversation at different levels, different sectors, starting the youth themselves, the parents, guardians, teachers, religious leaders, and the governments, because we need policies which will aid us prevent this. We appreciate that when a teenager gets pregnant, their life gets messed up in a big way. One, because that's the age when they are in school, either in high school, others in primary school, others in college. When they get pregnant, it means that their education is interfered with, and for some of them is interfered with forever. Again, we know that teenage pregnancy brings a lot of psychosocial problems. These teenagers get discriminated. Some parents even chase them away, they disown them. Their peers start looking down upon them, and that can have a long-lasting psychological impact. And then also we appreciate that, again, teenage pregnancies come with other health-related complications. A number try to procure and save abortions, leading to sometimes even to loss of life, or even their reproductive systems are getting messed up forever. Those who are bold enough and have been cancelled enough will carry the pregnancy to term. And we know during the pregnancy of a teenager, there are so many complications which can arise, bleeding and so many other things. And even during delivery, there are also complications, including obstetric labor. So this is an issue which really has a big impact on society, and we must indulge in it to really ensure that, one, we prevent it. And the best way to prevent it is basically to look at the sexual and reproductive health rights of our teenagers. And that starts all the way from menstrual hygiene and including all that, because when that is not appreciated, when we make it like is a taboo, these girls grow up without really knowing what is supposed to happen, where to seek help, and many other things. Of course, as we tackle the issue of the girl child and the teenage pregnancies, it must be tackled together with the issues of the boy child, because these pregnancies don't just come. And for a fact, if there was a scenario where we could have our teenage girls somewhere where there are no men, then we will not be talking about teenage pregnancies. But unfortunately, there is no such life. Girls will be mixing with boys.
True.
And also grown men. And so we need to have an open discussion, progressive one, to ensure that we move forward as a country and tackle this issue.
How is this going to happen, Dr. Because I think even as we sit here and we try to figure out really what needs to go on, because starting off where you talked about, even if, and I said this yesterday, if we're talking about 4,000 being an erroneous number, even if we had 500 girls in one county who are going to the clinic 4 times over months, it's a problem, just as you've admitted to. And even if the number is 500, let's bring it down and cut it in half and divide it by 2. The number is, even if it's 500 in one area, it's a high number, Dr. That's one. Secondly,
that's very true.
Yeah. So secondly, if we're saying that it's not a COVID issue, that away, it's still a problem, because that means that this was existing even before COVID, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So it is a problem, latent or not, that we have right here in front of us. Now, with the things that you have said, absolutely true. But if we look at the practicality of it, Dr. How do we get some of these things to happen? What tangible things do we need to do, or do we need to happen? Because it could be that the spotlight is on Machakos, but as we said earlier, this is something that is reverberating through the entire nation at this time.
Yes.
What needs to be done?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And what needs to be done is first to state the facts, because the reason why I had to clarify that the current numbers are not related to COVID is because they are, sometimes Kenyans, we just like looking for ready-made solutions. There are those who have been agitating and saying that these are because of COVID, so schools should be reopened. And you see, now if we have such a discussion, then we'll be losing it. Because fact of the matter is, teenage pregnancies have been with us. So let's not blame COVID-19 for the teenage pregnancies. Let's now have a real discussion. And that's the reason why to demystify that they are not COVID-19 related. The COVID-19 ones will come, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So what needs to be done is let's have an open society where we can discuss things openly. We know that, let's admit it, when we were in high school, a number of us had girlfriends, and a number of us had boyfriends. Those are facts. But when we become adults and become parents, we try to forget that and try to imagine that our girls, our boys don't have boyfriends when they're in high school, even when they're in college. We are lying to ourselves. And the reason for that is let's appreciate that these are the boy-girl relationships. They are physiological. They are hormonal. That's the reason why, at a certain age, boys start getting attracted to girls, and girls to boys, and so on. So let's appreciate that it is physiological, and there is nothing wrong with a high school girl having a boyfriend or a high school boy having a girlfriend, as long as those relationships are well guided and directed. So we need to have those discussions all the way from the home, where mothers, fathers, guardians, grandparents, aunties, and so on, and uncles really start discussing these issues with our boys, with our girls early enough. Then when we get to the school environment, again, let our teachers be also open and discussing some of these issues with our girls and boys, because sometimes we've seen in schools where a girl, when she has started experiencing a menstrual period, maybe she was not aware, and unfortunately maybe she soils her clothes. You see, instead of now the teachers taking responsibility and counseling her and telling her it's normal, a number of teachers actually say very bad, nasty things to such a girl. And you see now from that early age, then they start feeling is like being a girl or having menstrual periods is like is a crime, is demeaning. And then they start now withholding things inside themselves.
Even
Then
the
it will
parents.
follow that.
I want to pause.
Yes.
I want to interrupt here and interject and ask you, Daktari, from the statistics that you have, because now you have the statistics of the children who are the children who are coming to health facilities for antenatal care. Those statistics that you have, is there anywhere where there is a report of indicating whether it was consensual sex with their peers or whether it was abused by somebody else? Is there any corresponding kind of data, maybe coming also from the police department and the chiefs?
Well, some of them you can have, like data, like let's say if it was an issue of incest, which probably might have even gone all the way to court and so on. But generally, when people come to the natal clinics, there are questions which should not be appropriate to ask, because it will not be right for someone, even if it's an adult, who has come for an antenatal clinic, then you start asking them who impregnated you. Was it a boyfriend? Was it whatever? It will be an inappropriate question.
The doctor may not ask this, but the rest of the government system should be able to capture this information. That the fact that there's a girl who has gone to seek antenatal care in a certain health facility, and then now this is followed up, even if it's being worked on backwards. Because once you have this information and you're saying we have teenagers who are pregnant, as a government, this should be a point of concern. So what else do you do to find out how this girl ended up and how this many girls are ending up pregnant?
That is a very complicated issue, because in the process of trying to establish that, actually you can cause more harm to this girl. Imagine if this girl maybe was assaulted by maybe a relative, an uncle, a teacher. The legal process needs to be followed, but not in the documentation whereby we can have this data in the clinic or whatever. Again, it can cause a lot of psychosocial problems to the girl when you really try to dig deep. Maybe they already hurt. Then you are trying now to remind them how someone maybe raped them.
I think that is if you approach it in a silo, Daktari. If you approach it in a silo, then it could be a problem. But if you know that in this government we have children officers, right? In this government we have an entire ministry in charge of social services and the youth. In this government we have all these others. So if one, like your department now, the health department, has this data of this number of children are pregnant in our county and they are seeking services, this information is information that can be shared with the other departments, and those other departments would be able, for example, our counselor would be able to sit down with this child and find out how the child is doing. And from there, you'd be able now to capture the other important information. Because yes, like you said, what if this was as a result of abuse? Do you imagine that just by keeping quiet, by not asking the questions, you're helping the girl?
No, we don't keep quiet. That's what I've said. For in cases of, let's say, the incest, rape, and so on, all those cases are there and they are recorded, and the appropriate government departments actually take charge. I'm sure you've seen every year the Teacher Service Commission gives a list of teachers who have been either dismissed or taken to court because of canon knowledge with students.
Yes.
That data is there.
Yes.
But the thing is now trying to bring it now that this girl was employed by this teacher and making public data, that would be wrong. Because as you said, teenage pregnancy is a societal problem. it is not really a government problem. It's a societal problem, all the way from parenting, how we interact, how we've been socialized. And that data is there, but in different places. And sometimes there's a good reason why it is kept silent. Because at the end of the day, these are minors who we need to protect them, even from, and we've seen how our society is. We've seen a lot of cyberbullying. So some of these things, the data is there, but needs to be handled in a very, very delicate way, because we've even seen, of course, and even myself, I've gone to court to where maybe a girl has been assaulted by maybe a teacher, sexually assaulted, a teacher, a relative, an elderly person. And those cases, they go to court. But it will not be appropriate now to start saying this girl X was impregnated by man X. Not be right, but the data is there, yes.
Dr. Given the severity and the clear increase of such cases, does a health system such as the one that you oversee have social workers and counselors?
Yes, we do. We do, in fact, if I may mention, Machakos County, and I believe also many other counties, we have youth-friendly health services, where apart from because the teenage pregnancy is an outcome. But we have youth-friendly services where our youth can seek counseling services. Those who wish can get contraception. Those who get pregnant get now the counseling, the proper natal care away from the other mature women, because we appreciate these are young girls, and you cannot just put them in the same process when they are pregnant like mature women. These ones require some delicate attention, which they are taken through. So those services are there. We have, and of course, there are different departments, as you are aware. We have the Department of Children Services, which is under the national government. And all those things are there, and they are active. Yes.
If indeed you do have these services, aren't these the sort of people who would be trained to handle the sensitive matters that you said one cannot easily discuss with the youth who come to you?
Yes, and those issues are handled. But what I was saying is, you are trying to make it a bit too simplistic, that we just need to have that data. Say this girl was impaired by this one by this. The data is there. Again, there's the issue of the confidentiality of these minors. But that work is ongoing. And that's why I started by demystifying that if we don't get the correct statistics, we'll be fighting the wrong war.
But so let's come back to that, because I think you got the question wrong, Dr. The question is not asking whether girl X was impregnated by man Y or boy X. The question is clear. Do you have correlating or corresponding data? If you know that you have 20 girls who are pregnant in Machakos County this month, and they've gone to health facilities for the first time this month, do you have any other corresponding data from other government departments that shows you we have then 10 cases that have been reported as defilement? We have five.
Yes,
we have 5 disputes that have been reported with the chiefs as parents going to say your son impregnated our girl. Do you have that corresponding data?
That data is there in the children's department. It is there.
All right. So from the data that you have and the data that now we have about teenage pregnancies in Machakos County, how many cases do you have, ongoing cases of disputes that have been lodged in other systems of government that indicate abuse?
I may not be able to give you that data now because, government, different arms work together, and each does whatever is supposed to be done, because that now is not data for the Department of Health to consume. Now that is for the legal department and the relevant, basically the administration to take care of. But I can get you that data.
So if we're saying that, Terry, if we're looking at these teenage pregnancies right now, and we know that it is something that must be dealt with as an issue,
Yes.
By the time we start looking at dealing with it as an issue, you must look at the underlying reasons. Now, are we looking at teenage pregnancy across the country, or even if just one county, for example, is coming about as a result of abuse? Is it coming about as a result of, sex being had without the right information? What is the issue? Because then that would help in solving the problem.
That's a very good question. And the answer to that is it is a number of issues. Okay? Let's appreciate one, a number of these teenage pregnancies are actually from peers. Boy child, girl child, the same age.
How many? What percentage?
As I've told you, I'll not be able to give you that because that information is another department. But what I'm saying is I'll not be able to give you the percentages, but they are there and we know them. Whereby it's consensual sex between age mates. There's also the issue of teachers. As I've said, some teachers who have canon knowledge with their students. There's the issue of even incest. And we have a number of cases ongoing, even from my village, where chiefs have actually arrested a father for impregnating a daughter, something like that, a teacher doing X, Y, Z. All that is there. And then, when this teenage period is, it goes all the way to 19 years. Some of these students, teenagers actually in college. There's also the issue of sugar daddies, which we must address. Because there's a financial poverty issue, which is also fueling some of these teenage pregnancies. We've had from some universities, there's the issue of sex for marks or sex for grades. So all those issues, we need to look at them across the board. And that's why I mentioned that teenage pregnancies are a societal problem. It's not a government problem. It's not just a health problem. It's not a school problem. It is across the board, and we need to start all the way from the home, the parenting, the religion, where this how we socialize our girls and boys as we go to churches or mosques, in school, in high schools, in colleges, in all that, across the board, because we sometimes, as parents, especially middle-class parents, sometimes we fail. We find that someone has decided to take a 10-year-old to a boarding school.
Yep.
And when you lose that child I'm talking about now the parenting aspect, from 10 years, you'll never recover it. So they learn things from their peers, from the society, and they may learn the wrong thing. So it's a societal problem. We need to address all those issues. It's not there's no one single answer or one single solution. We need to walk all through and see how these things are happening.
We see the governor of Machakos, Dr. Alfred Mutua, released a statement yesterday where he was calling on the president to establish a task force so that this can be a national conversation.
Yes.
And I just want to take us back to that point where you started by saying this is a societal problem, and this is actually what I completely agree with you. It's a conversation that needs to happen within the society. But I also feel that we need to get to a point where we're coming from a point of information. There are all these many possibilities that lead to pregnancy of teenagers.
Yes.
And just like even your governor was saying, the ones who are pregnant may just be a smaller percentage of others who have not become pregnant, but they are engaged in sex.
Yeah, and also, if you allow me, remember the data we have is only for the ones who have come to seek medical support.
Yes.
There's a certain percentage which does not even go to hospital.
Indeed.
It has not been captured.
Indeed.
Yes. So it is a real issue, which I'm happy we are discussing.
What I wanted to ask is, I'm going back to the question I'd asked earlier regarding counselors and social workers.
Yes.
If we know that this is a problem, what preventative measures has the county taken?
That's a very good question. So as the county government of Machakos, we've taken a number of measures. One is we have school programs, which school health programs, where our teams actually go to schools and educate these girls on the whole health issue, including menstrual health, the issue of sexual rights, the issue of basically the girls and the boys to understand their physiology. Why is this change coming? Also telling them that feeling attracted to a boy or to a girl is not criminal. It's part of your body physiology. We have those ongoing. As I mentioned, we have the youth-friendly health services, again spread across the county, whereby our youth can be, yes.
What is that? What's a youth-friendly health facility?
Friendly clinics is basically a clinic where is only the youth who who go to it, because they realize that when youth go to the normal clinics where they are adults, they might be looked down upon. But we have now these friendly clinics whereby a boy or a girl can walk in and say, I need to be given contraception. And they advise on the best one for them. Unlike if they walk to a general family planning clinic, they may be looked down upon, maybe by the elderly women.
Okay.
So that's one. Again, where they can access even post-exposure prophylaxis for in case they have had unprotected sex. They also go there for counseling. They get sexual education. They get counseling on how to approach life. And Macu, we give both the natural methods of contraception and also the artificial ones. And they also, in case of now the ones who maybe get pregnant, they get counseling. The advice why is not they should not do abortion, and they are taken through the whole pregnancy process and natal clinics in a tailor-made way for teenagers. And all the way, then of course we have the youth, the teenagers who actually have disease like HIV. Again, they are counseled to know how they need to continue with their drugs and live a normal life. Then as a county government, we've also actively engaged youth groups, including there's a youth group called Machakos Youth Assembly, and the other partners who we continuously engage them. We also actively engage university students, and these are a unique one, but a very good one. We engage university students from Machakos County, and we support them to go back to go to high schools and talk to the teenagers there, because they are almost a similar age. The teenagers in high schools listen better to them.
Yeah.
They explain to them how to approach life, the sexual aspects and all that, so that they can really relate. Because sometimes when you are an older person trying to tell some of these things to the youth, they just ignore you, because the teenage life which is there currently is different from the teenage life we lived. And we have that. Again, as I've said, we have other programs. We have our counselors, our psychologists who again engage these youth at different levels. We are also actively engaging religious leaders, because again, sometimes some of these problems come about because of some religious basically teachings which make some things taboo to be discussed, which should not be the case. And we are seeing change, because all of us need to be involved. Again, obviously, the Ministry of Interior, the chiefs, sub-chiefs, government administrators are also actively engaged, so that we also talk to these our youth and also the parents. So all these support groups are there, and the county government continues to support all those different initiatives.
How about safe houses, halfway houses for children who feel that they've been abused, or children who have been abused, and they are seeking justice and they want to get away from that environment where they have facing the abuser? Do you have any plan to set up such houses, such facilities for them?
Yes, that discussion is ongoing. In fact, the First Lady of Machakos is in the forefront of championing for that, because as you said, it's true, we really need to have safe houses where teenagers and also even elderly women who have been abused, either sexually or otherwise, are attended to. And at Machakos Level 5 Hospital, we have a gender-based violence center, whereby we attend to all these issues, and these girls and women get support, both financial, psychological, and so on, because after the abuse, after the recovery, there is a life after, and that needs also support. So those are ongoing discussions, interventions, which are there, but still need to be strengthened.
For sure, it needs to be strengthened. And unfortunately, I think we're dealing with an issue that right now there's a lot of noise about it, Dr. And as is the normal trajectory that things will take, in a couple of weeks, the noise is going to die down. And it is the hope.
It is very unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate. It is the hope that the action will actually increase even if the noise dies down. But as we have seen historically, unfortunately, the action dies down with the noise. What assurances or what confidence, let's not even talk about the general public, the people those who are, which could be anybody, who are at risk of entering in and being just another statistic, what confidence or hope do they have that something is going to be done? We've talked about a welfare system. We've talked about a safe house system. We've talked about so many things now. We've talked about everybody getting involved, the conversation going. How do we say that this will be spurred on and continue even after the noise dies down? And I can assure you in other quarters, in a couple of weeks, the noise will not be as loud.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and it's a very unfortunate situation because Kenyans, we have a very funny way of living, whereby basically everything comes, we discuss, we hype it, and then something else comes, we jump, we go to the other thing, and we keep on moving. And that's why we needed one. I know people might think I'm trying to defend, but that's what I was saying. One, I went back and actually compared the teenage pregnancies from January to May 2019 and January to May 2020. And for a fact, at least for Machakos County, there were more in 2019 than there are now in the same time frame. But that notwithstanding, this is a discussion which we must perpetrate all through. Of course, we know the influencers so move from one thing to the next. But for those of us who mean well for our society and those who are concerned about this issue of teenage pregnancies, are basically the sexual and reproductive health rights of our young girls and women. We must continue in these conversations. We know the churches, the mosques, and the other religious bodies are also now actually alive to this. These are discussions which are ongoing, and we must continue with them. And we should take refuge in the fact that even our constitution actually protects sexual and reproductive health. And so with the backing of the law, we should be able to do the right thing. And obviously, the problem is that sometimes the systems might seem not to work, because a number of times you hear teachers being dismissed because of having canon knowledge with their students. But should it just end there by being sacked? Shouldn't there be some tougher action taken so that just because they're losing the job, it only affects you? Why can't there be a better deterrent? The same measures. Way when punitive measures, exactly. The same way if a certain mature person maybe takes advantage of a young girl, and we've seen it sometimes happen. Poor girls being lured by someone who promised to pay fees for them, and they start paying, but in the process they just take advantage. We need to have punitive actions be taken so that these sex predators are really taken good care of, and as in terms of being put where they belong, to ensure that other people don't copy the same.
Those are very good points, and they're actually true. My challenge to the government of Machakos and other county governments, even before we go to the national government, is when you're sitting at your cabinet meetings, because Dr. Nzioki, you are in the cabinet, you're at the highest level of the executive of Machakos County. The conversation should not be looked at from, my department deals with those that come to the hospital, and then the other department looks at what other data they have. You should be able to compare this information so you can basically sit and have the overall view, knowing in Machakos County, this is the bigger cause of pregnancy among our teenagers. Is it abuse? Is it children having sex with their fellow teenagers? Is it teachers? What is the bigger cause? So that can help you direct a conversation and know this is where we need to give our focus.
That's a very good comment. But you see that you followed my governor's comment yesterday. The thing is that the issue is bigger than just a county. And that's why Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua talked about a national conversation, because you find that the issues of children's rights and all that, they're under the department of the Children's Department, which is actually under the national government.
Yep.
There are issues which are the county. And they are the county level, of course, we also have our departments dealing with us, with such. But as I've said, this is a societal issue. If it's a teacher who has had the canon with a student or a teenager, education is not devolved. If it's a chief who has taken advantage, that again is at the national level. So that's why my governor called for a national discourse, whereby we can be able to link all these issues and be able to address them regardless of whether this needs to be tackled by the judiciary, by the legislature at the national level, by the Ministry of Interior, by the Department of Health. We need to have that conversation so that this issue almost to have something like a one-stop shop, whereby we can be able to handle this issue of teenage health and teenage pregnancies once and for all, and in a very easy way. Because currently the way the system is, there are many red steps which you have to go through before you achieve some things. And that's why the governor, Dr. Alfred Mutua, called on the president to form, whether it's a task force or whatever it will be, so that we can have a genuine discussion on how to tackle this issue. Yes.
Dr. do I understand you to be saying that in the absence of a national discussion on this issue, the county government of Machakos is not able to tackle the problems that Machakos County has?
No, that's not what I've said. But what you need to appreciate is, fact of the matter is within the county government, within the county of Machakos, we have things which need to be done from the national government level to ensure to prevent teenage pregnancies. Okay, and that's why now we've talked about the issue of, for example, some teachers. There's the issue of some religious leaders. There's the issue of some administrators to be able to tackle. And that's why I'm talking about the whole holistic issue. And I've highlighted the issues that the county government of Machakos is undertaking to prevent these teenage pregnancies menace. And there are quite a number. I don't know whether I need to repeat them. There are quite a number. Yeah. But still, we need that proper link to be able to really address this issue in a very proper, sober way. Because I had said, and I repeat again, the issue, the problem of teenage pregnancies is a societal problem. It's not an issue to say that's for the county government, that's for the national government, that's for the religious leaders, that's for the schools. It is all of us, the whole society.
True.
Yes. And mark you, some of the issues which are leading to these teenage pregnancies are even beyond the government of Kenya. Because we know that our teenagers now with internet and everything, they can be able to access content from even other countries, from other places. Again, we know that there are influences from outside the country for some uncouth behaviors, which gets all the way to our youth. There are some kind of music which are produced not even within the country, but our teenagers have access to them. So it's not just an issue of say, can the county government, why has the county government capped this? Why has the national government capped? It's the whole society, bigger than even the country, yes.
Dr. Ansent Nzioki, thank you very much for speaking to us. Dr. Nzioki is the County Executive Committee member for Health in Machakos County. Asante sana, Daktari, for speaking to us. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you very much, Daktari.
At 9:45, we also now open up the phone lines again, 0719 012 600. This conversation must continue. Let's take a look at weather and traffic. All
right, still just a few. In Nairobi, partly cloudy conditions and the chance of rain is still quite high. Highs of 23 and lows of 13. Nyeri, partly cloudy conditions. It's going to be a rainy afternoon there, moving towards Eldoret and also in Kisumu. And into the weekend for Kakamega as well, we'll experience thunderstorms for the next couple of days. In Malindi and Mombasa, mostly sunny conditions for now, getting into a weekend of rain as well, experiencing highs of 28 and 29 respectively. Kampala at 19 degrees will be mostly cloudy for now. Rain and thunderstorms expected later with highs of 24, as will be the case in Dar es Salaam with highs of 31. Johannesburg still quite frosty today at 2 degrees. We'll see highs of 14 and lows of -1. Lagos sees clear skies this morning and then partly cloudy conditions with 28 the high and lows of 23. All right, let's end it in the US and Europe, where New York will record highs of 27 and lows of 19 as they're getting well into summer. And then in Paris, it's sunny conditions this morning at 16, highs of 23 and lows of 13. And to wrap things up, going into the weekend in London, we're at 15 degrees. It's mostly cloudy, going into a weekend of rain with highs of 19 today and lows of 13. All right, it still looks like the Maimahiu escarpment is going to be the traffic situation for the day and into the weekend. We're going to see heightened levels of traffic there, and we will see that it'll probably stave off getting towards the evening, but that's what we see today, and likely to pick up again on Monday morning. Getting off of Mombasa Road and Thika Road today is looking good. The traffic situation seems to have died down quite some. Enjoy the Friday moving around quite easily, and it'll probably pick up in the evening again, but for now, it's all good.
You are tuned in to Nairobi's #1 soul station, Spice FM. Traffic.
All right, so what should we do to address in this country? Now, well, let's put it all lump sum, teenage pregnancies, and then also focus majorly on abuse of children. What should we do?
It's a multi-pronged approach. I mean, you can't say this will solve the problem,
one thing, yeah.
This will solve the problem. But you now always go back to schools. Why I go back to schools is simply this. The one place where you're guaranteed to inculcate certain values in children with consistency is a school. There's something about our laws and our constitution and the rights of children that, in my mind, should be taught in schools. And in teaching them this, you'll be empowering the children to understand what it is that is their right, in also understanding appropriateness, in understanding wrong. Because what seems to be clear is, from the conversations we've had today, it seems that the role of the parents is minimalized in our discussion. It's what the school should do, what the state should do. Clearly, parenting has taken a completely new turn. It's not what people assume it should be. And since children spend more time in school than they do at home, then, secondly, the issue of sex education that we keep mentioning.
Yeah, in school.
Yes.
Part of the curriculum.
Yes. Yes. Part of the curriculum, not in biology.
And not some fly off the seat of your pants mention here and there. Have you heard some of the stuff that is taught?
No, yes.
It's ridiculous at best.
You want it to be consistent, and you graduate the education as the children get older so that they actually understand it.
And really understand it. Really understand it. Because look, if we were to do, just...
What is understanding it?
Okay, this is why I'm saying. You would be surprised if you were to just take a snapshot of, even if it's 500 of these girls currently now who are pregnant. And it may sound funny to the discerning mind, but these girls who are pregnant now actually do not understand the process that their bodies went through to get them there. And that's what we're talking about now. There's so many things that are said to a girl at 9 years old who doesn't even understand what's happening with her own body, and then she gets pregnant. it is actually mind-boggling. Even for the person who fully understands, you're not quite sure what's really going on with your body. So you can imagine somebody who's not fully developed and may have been given a different story. You can imagine being given a story that's not true at the stage in your life where you're still being socialized. So that's what I mean by understanding.
Yes, I can imagine. I mean, the birds and bees, we're not talking about something that doesn't happen.
Exactly. So you can imagine an education that leads towards understanding and complete comprehension at that age is extremely important.
This has actually been fought by parents and by people who are religious because
they say you spoil our children.
Yes, you're promoting promiscuity.
Surely.
Yes, and yet you must. There is a way in which these matters are educational and you understand. But so long as you keep avoiding it and assuming that somehow the children will figure it out, children have to be taught things. If you don't, teachers will be...
What other topic would you introduce apart from the physiological and biological?
The functions of the body. You'd teach girls about menses, when to expect them, what they are.
Right.
Hormones. The attraction that you have, what to do with it.
And even for boys,
Yes.
what's going on with your body, right?
Is that not taught?
Eric?
Like what I'm saying, in part of biology, physiological and biological.
No.
It's
not in such details, Eric.
Not in
Eric, not in such
Not into
details.
that great detail, but you get the basics.
No, you don't need to get the basics. You need to be taught. You need to understand it. This idea that your mother or your auntie will teach you some of these things, that falls in the realm of fairy tales. If you have a diligent mother, they may teach you. The stories of ants, those were in a village setting where those ants were constantly there. They are part and parcel of your everyday life.
And then they call you and you sit down and you have a conversation with them on a mat under a tree and they tell you some of these things. But they didn't happen. It's not rampant as a practice.
Yeah.
It isn't. It really is not.
Some callers calling in. Esther in Mombasa, you're back.
Yes,
Good morning.
hi.
Hi.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, this topic is very touchy to myself. I really feel... now I'm not as vocal as I was earlier. So it's very touchy because it's touching on children. It's really not boy-girl, but mostly now the girl. And like the guy has said, to me, this is my contribution. When we look at I'll start with the poverty level within our country. The poverty level, not for lack of basic needs. And okay, this is something off the hook. I have this kind of an NGO for girls and education, and the county that I focus on is one of the counties where I have acquired by law. So that place, when I go every other holiday, I meet with the girls, and it is that small action. I meet with the girls, and we are like, where did we stop from here? Because they are like, I aspire to be a teacher. That is the highest I have had so far. I've not had anybody tell me I want to be a nurse, I want to be a pilot. No, those are not dreams there. And this caught me because I'm like, if we are talking of sitting down with your grandparents, the generations have passed. That one, it has passed. It will still continue because we are in family setup, but it has passed. We are in the digital
So Esther,
era.
to cut you short, what's a relation between poverty levels and understanding sex?
Poverty level and understanding. No. I'm talking about the poverty level that leads the girls to actually accept the two offers that they hear. Because you see, it's not the basic needs that I don't have food. It is now somebody looking at the situation, because this person is growing from class 5, 6, 7, and then 8.
Yep.
We are talking from that class. Then leave alone the ones who are now teenagers, because those ones already know so much. They say that when we are at home, we are just forced now to go and do the normal. There's nowhere to go. There are no social places to meet. There are no rappos and then forget about now those in the mashambani, because we are also putting it to look like only those in the villages are on this risk. The ones also with a lot of risk are the ones in the towns, the ones we live with, because they are already digitalized, and we have acquired this cultural norms that City was talking about. It has been changed from what we knew. Everyone talking is saying we used to do this those days. It is not there. It is only maybe 20%. It is no longer there. So we cannot say parents have failed, nini. And then when I listened to the county Machakos guy, I needed to hear him say, from my county, I am in control like this. From where I sit to the village, to that girl. That is what I expected to hear, that change. How it is going to the schools, the connections, the NGOs, the CBOs, and what he has put in place.
Good.
I
want to pick this call from Martin in Kisumu. Martin, as we come to conclude the show, good morning.
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yes, I want to support what Mr. City is saying, that we should be anchoring the same in our education system. It should not be, something that is just taught in subject like CRE and some bits in biology. It should be taught, I think it should be programmed in a way that is geared towards helping now the society.
Yeah.
It should also be taught by the right people, not pseudo teachers or tutor. Then I think our society must just change. We realize that everything is bad when you go to church. The right doctrines are not taught. If you go to the same school, sometimes there are certain things that are not going right. So we need an overall change on how we should be dealing with this.
True. Martin, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution. Asante sana also for tuning in to the Situation Room today.
Thank you.
Asante. So as we come to conclusion of the show for the week, all right, what's the way forward from where you sit?
Well, I mean, it's going to take, I think when we're looking at a solution, also we need to remind ourselves of the expectations. The expectations are not that tomorrow we're going to open our eyes and this will be sorted out. To start to have people warm up to the conversation is going to take some time, number one, but it has to be in the open and it has to be made evidently clear to all the parties involved that unfortunately we've been resting on some falsely acclaimed laurels for too long. There's a problem, something needs to be done about it, and we need to continue talking about it openly and not be afraid to hide under the carpet. It needs to be done because what is happening is that people are being abused, some people are abusing, some people are victims, and we're growing up and entering into a damaged society.
I think we need to get to a point where we are collecting data. The fact that we talked about this 4,000 is what has brought up this conversation this time. And then we are now going back to saying, no, this is the wrong data. So what's the correct data? I think we need to get all that data done, and that's why I kept insisting on the CEC. I mean, have this information that you have it on your fingertips. No, these are the numbers. This is what's happening. These are the cases that we have ongoing in court. These are the children that require our support. These are the children that have gotten our support and they're back home, and this is how they're faring. All this information, once the government has that, then we can have a conversation. Up to that point, we are still operating the same. You know, it's a society problem. It's a society problem, and the society does not even want to accept.
That's a cop-out.
Okay. What do you say, City?
I am actually going to agree with you. And this is not data that you simply collect by talking about it. It's deliberate and it's consistent. So it's something that you know about, and it's sub-county by sub-county. If you want to take it village to village, then let it be so.
Do the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you actually know where the bulk of the problem is, and when you're planning for a solution, you will then know what to target and how to target it.
Great. Today's proverb?
No matter how long a log stays in water, it doesn't become a crocodile. No matter how long we talk about solving problems, no matter how long we set up task forces and committees, that in itself will not solve the problem. You have to get to the bottom of it, transmitting to the reality of what it is, then
well said. Spice up your... Monique will be here in the afternoon with Spice Drive. And the adults in the room, 7 to 10. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock. Have a great and lovely weekend. See you again on Monday at 6 a.m.